ставши на коліно, своє полкове знамено, дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою, всі скитання, воно вібрало у собі, всю кров
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великой страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Lviv Street Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 360 of the news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine here on day 360. Only 5 days away from an entire year of the war. But some of y'all who may be mathematically inclined may notice that the 365th day is not falling on the 24th, it's actually falling 2 days before, based off of our count. So we're going to have to do something with the titles in between day 365 and February 24th that does not involve day numbers in them, but hey, it's still day 360. So with that, with that out of the way, we're going to be moving on into our news for the night. And we've been seeing something incredibly interesting, Matthew. The Bradleys are on their way now, and the first Ukrainian crews have been trained on them completely. The first round of training, the first batch of Ukrainian soldiers that will be operating the Bradleys have completed their training. And according to the caption here, Ukrainian troops wrapped up the first rotation of battalion combined arms training at the U.S. Army garrison at Bavaria's Grafenwohr training area in Germany this week, the Pentagon announced Friday. Training focused on the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle, a Pentagon spokesman said in a statement. Now, I think that this is going to touch one of our viewers right at home, Matthew, because you wouldn't believe where the Grafenwohr training ground is.
Where would it be?
Vilsek. It's the training ground that Jesus UCSB is from.
All roads lead back to Vilsek, it seems.
Yeah, all roads lead back to Vilsek and Poppenberg, and I bet you those Russians are going to be calling those Ukrainians driving those Bradleys Big Poppenberg, because those things are going to be blowing them away. And also, we never saw Grafenwohr, but Grafenwohr is a beautiful little town. Like, you know, not to sidetrack a little bit too much, but it's very quaint and very beautiful. Really neat place, and I bet you the Ukrainians really like the little vacation they got, and also the amount of training that they got on these potent and deadly Bradleys that'll be sent back to Ukraine to fight against the Russians. So, of course, incredibly good news. We don't know how big this initial training batch was, but we should assume that the Bradleys and those crews will be in Ukraine here within the next couple of weeks, and they'll finally be in action fighting against the Russians on the very front lines that the Russians are currently claiming that things are going kind of okay on, but apparently they're not going that okay because the Russians have been finding new and interesting ways to try and draw Ukrainian fire or keep their own soldiers out of danger. And we've seen one of these new instances pop up today on Russia Today, or otherwise known as RT over most of the Western world. Just inside of Moscow, just inside of an arms expo, was just a little technological improvement that the Russians call progress. We call this stupidity, but I've got to introduce to all of y'all Robo-Soldier, who's going to be changing the face of this war forever, and it's finally going to lead the Russians to that elusive victory in the field of stupidity. Oh my god. So when you see they put the robotic soldier on an ATV...
Is this serious?
Yes, this is serious. We can see it driving around out there in a demonstration to none other than Vladimir Putin. You're about to see him looking out the window in a minute. He just realized this country will... Yeah, he just realized that no matter how many times he's been told by the generals things are going incredibly well, nothing will go well from this point on, because they literally have the Robo-Soldier riding on an ATV at 5 miles an hour. I can't believe that they seriously showed this to him. And look how fast it's going. Like, what is that supposed to do? Be shot? Like,
seriously.
Just looking at it for 5 seconds, just watching it move like that. Oh my god, this whole video is priceless. This is priceless.
He's thinking about who he's going to throw out of a window in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you know what I'm wondering, Matthew, is it looks like none of the actual robot even works, but why does it look like it's such a complicated robot? You know, like, look at the legs and stuff. It's like hundreds of little pieces are in a single leg, but this like figure on top of the ATV, it doesn't even work. It doesn't even move from what we can tell. It just sits on top of it.
Serious? I'm surprised RT even aired this, especially with that look on Putin's face.
I know, but apparently the Russians are so hard-pressed for anything that looks like a technological advancement right now, and the overall lack of their own industry to come up with anything good, that this is the best thing they can show on TV. And keep that in mind. In Russia, this is worth showing on TV as technological improvements that will help them out in the war. And that's how bad off their war industry is that this is the best thing they can possibly produce and then show on TV as something for the Russians to be happy about, that maybe it'll help them win the war a little bit better. But how? I'm not really understanding how this little remote-controlled ATV driving at such a slow speed is going to help out in anything at all. But we're going to move on from this little clip because, of course, the Russians are really showing us how they're not doing well at all and how little their war industry is ready for a war as prolonged and deadly as this for the Russian armed forces. And speaking of which, the Russians are not actually faring all that well today on the front lines, and it appears that the Ukrainians are actually pushing the Russians back as we speak right now on the southern flank of the Battle of Bakhmut, inside of that tree line near Klishkivka. And so we're going to be moving not into our location unknowns, and not into the Kiev news as well, because we've actually had a bit of Kiev news today. We're going to be moving right into the Battle of Bakhmut and our frontline analysis here, as it appears that things are starting to change in Ukraine's favor again, and they're starting to turn the tide of the battle. But before we get into all of our video clips, we need to analyze this frontline and see what's been going on right now and what we'll most likely be seeing. And so going on into today's map, and interestingly enough, if y'all notice at the bottom of the screen, let me refresh it just to make sure that they haven't updated it for today. So they have updated it for today, interestingly enough. That actually didn't happen an hour before stream. I've been constantly refreshing this, so apparently that happened literally just minutes ago. But if we go from the 16th to the 17th, we can see that the Russians are once again filling in the no man's land that's existed for quite some while. You can see the area is no man's land, and they're trying to create a long, straight front line to ensure that there is no way for the Ukrainians to exploit what would be a gap otherwise. But in the southern front area, we're once again seeing the Russians have not moved whatsoever. And no man's land has not changed at all either. And from what we've been told right now, at this very moment, there is a battle occurring in between Ukrainian and Russian soldiers inside of this tree line in green right here, as the Ukrainians are attempting to push the Russians back off the ridge in this area and once again reaffirm the defensive positions in Klishkivka and try and hold the area looking down over the highway leading south of Bakhmut. We don't know how possible this will be, and we don't know if the Ukrainians will succeed immediately once this task is undertaken, but we do know that so far, Russian forces in the southern flank have been getting destroyed, much more so than the forces in the area of Krasnohora. And if we look at this map, you can get a pretty good idea why. And so let me go to Google Maps and drag y'all over here into the Bakhmut area and into this tree line, and y'all can see that this is really the only area that Russian forces can operate in, is this tiny little slither of tree line for the most part up the ridgeline until you get into the small forest here south of Ivaniske. This is the only area that Russian infantry can move in safely. If they move through the fields, they'll be blasted away by artillery and drone bomblets. At least in the tree line, they're given a little bit of concealment and a little bit of an advantage before they get spotted and hit by the artillery there as well, which we also saw yesterday. So the Ukrainians, for the large part, only have to focus specifically on this tree line where the Russians are and pushing them on out and back down the ridgeline the best they can. And from what we can tell over the past few days, we have seen modest gains and modest progress by the Ukrainians towards this goal, and our videos today are also showing something similar. Not only that, it appears that the Ukrainians are also drawing in more reinforcements from the field to help with these aims and making sure that the Russians are not able to finally complete the encirclement of Bakhmut, both in the area of Krasnohora and Chasiv Yar, and leave Bakhmut to be completely cut off from their supply lines. So moving into our first clips, starting off in the southern front, we saw today a large mass of Ukrainian forces that have been brought into the area, and also I have to mute the music, that will be helping in this counter push. Now, of course, we don't know exactly where they are in the Bakhmut area, but the number is massive. It appears that at least 1,000 soldiers are in this video, and all of these infantrymen will be used in the coming push. Very nice to see. Matthew, the Russians are like, we did it! We beat them! We're almost at Chasiv Yar! 1,000 more Ukrainian soldiers show up on the field, and they're like, oh, bleh, it's not going well. So with that, not only are these infantry going to be entering the field and fighting directly against the Russians, but the Ukrainians have also been showing off some of the tank reinforcements entering the area. And these pictures were actually released by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and funnily enough, the story behind these tanks is a little ironic. Here is a T-80U. Here's a T-72B3, and it appears it has the B series tiles on the side. Moving on into the next picture, we can see a full-on T-72B3, and then we can also see a T-72B3, and that may be a T-64. It looks like a T-64. Interestingly enough, all of these tanks, except for that T-64BV in the last picture, are all captured tanks that are being used against the Russians, but were originally, at the beginning of this war, Russian army tanks. So the Russians are going to be blown away off the field by a new wave of Ukrainian infantry, and also being supported by tanks that were at one point supporting the Russians that they're now going to be firing against. So incredibly good to know that they are going to be taking the initiative in this area and trying to push the Russians back out, and we have a feeling that it will most likely be fairly successful, especially considering the terrain disadvantage that the Russians have in this area, and also they have such a small slither to operate in. And while Deep State shows that they control the fields here, that is a very loose control. And once again, the Russians are hiding within these small strips of green that divide these fields. The only area a large amount of Russian forces can gather in is the small forest here south of Ivnivsky, and we'll most likely see that all of these forces can be uprooted from their positions easily due to them being quite weak and lacking a large amount of support, and pushed back off the field with superior firepower. So with that, we're now going to be moving on out of the southern flank and the little cliffs we saw down there. Great to see, and I hope that we see some progress there. And we're now going to be moving up into the northern flank in the area where we still hear that the Wagner unit is. Several days ago, we got a report that the Wagner unit had been pulled off of the line completely and replaced, but we're getting more and more videos saying that the Wagner unit is still there and they're fighting against them. So I believe that information may, at this point, be on the fence. It may have been wrong, it may have been correct, we're not really sure. So here's our first clip of the Wagner getting screwed over. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, this isn't just them getting screwed over. The Ukrainian Special Forces got near one of their bases behind the lines and ended up blowing away 20 of them and then injuring 19. So here's the clip. And you see one of the snipers looking into the distance, firing his gun.
Готов, гондон лежит, бля.
See them adjusting their aim, moving the scope. It appears that the video may have clipped to another part, but you can see a large unit of Russians out in the distance, moving around.
В дом, пидоры. Сейчас немножко подпалили дом. Пытаемся трошки выкурить. У пидора патроны не закончились, ведет активный бой.
You see them observing the Wagner soldiers in the distance as they stand around, willy-nilly. We can also hear some explosions in the distance.
Да, тут же всё есть.
See them still looking at the Russians. They haven't really done anything to them. They're still just hanging out, biding their time.
Группа, один лежит, блядь. До сих пор нахуй. Сейчас ему контрольный.
You now see them firing again. We can now hear some return fire coming back towards them. Now you see them firing, and it looks like a good amount of them are starting to run across the field. About a squad's worth of them. The video is frozen there for a second. We can't tell if any of them are dropping either. And also, I feel, I was just thinking, I looked over the live chat, and I think some of y'all are also thinking the same thing. I swear that I was almost saying the same things about another clip a while ago, that an entire squad was moving across the field and we saw a sniper firing at them. So it appears that some of y'all are saying that it's old footage, and then Angry Penguin just said it's not the same clip. So, I don't know. We're going to move on from it, though, because for some reason I feel like it's really familiar, and for some reason I didn't pick up on that the first time I watched this, But if you would like to watch it, just in case you've never seen this before and it is new, make sure to go down to the link in the description below on this stream. You can find this map and watch it for yourself, this very video, at your own pace, and every other link on this map that you see right here. It's custom made only on this channel every single night, like fresh bread. We're now moving on into the rear line areas around Soledar, which is currently being used as a basing point for the forces fighting in the northern flank, and I'll show you all why. Soledar is a straight line town, and a lot of it can be used to support logistics and supplies within most of these houses that have not been completely destroyed, or the apartment buildings that you can find throughout a decent amount of the center of Soledar. The Wagner unit and any other infantry unit that's also based out of this area appears to be using this as a launching point to move further up the road and towards Vasyakivka or further down into the Krasnoor area and Pereskakivka. But one thing's for certain, the town hardly stands at this point. We got video footage today, it appears maybe from Russians, showing the state of the town behind the lines. Most of it's been destroyed, and according to actual reports, something like 70% of all of the buildings in Soledar have been so damaged that they will be requiring demolishing at the end of this war. And so here's a video showing the condition of the town of Soledar. You see destroyed vehicles throughout. You see that almost every single building in the city has been destroyed by the Russian artillery earlier on in the battle.
Do we know if there's any civilians left here?
From what we know, when the Ukrainians lost Soledar, there was only about less than 100 Ukrainian citizens left in the city, and its original population was somewhere around, I believe, 8,000 or 9,000. So there was practically no one left, but we don't know how many of those are still here or whether they left with the army. So it would be less than 100, for sure. See them still driving through the town, and the destruction is literally endless. Not a single part of the town has been left untouched. You see in the distance a tower that was actually a part of the salt mine, and we can see right there as they're driving by how badly damaged the salt mine was, that we actually saw some of the most pitched battles inside of the town of Soledar occurring at. It appears that almost every single building, except for the towers attached to the salt mines themselves, were practically destroyed, and we also don't know the condition of the underground tunnels, which may have been also caved in or destroyed due to the rocking and shaking of the artillery shells landing directly overhead. You can also see some of the taller Khrushchevka buildings built in the area have also been destroyed as well. All of them that we've seen in the video so far have even been burned out, with nothing remaining in the interior of the building. See, the destruction does not end. There's not a single building in this town that is somewhat livable or hospitable. All of them have been destroyed to the point that they may as well be unusable. And also, we've got a little bit of a distinguishing landmark here. We can see some apartment blocks in the background, and also a storage lot. So let's see if we can find where this is in Soledar. So the salt mine is somewhere around right here. I believe this is actually that specific area right here. So they took a left turn, they went up, and there's the storage lots. Well, actually, that's some storage lots. I'm trying to see where we can specifically find this. There are some storage lots and some apartment buildings, but it doesn't look the same. I don't know if I'm seeing this wrong or not, because we're only seeing this from satellite. Maybe I can drop down. Nope, can't drop down a street view. They don't have one. I think this is the area. Wait a minute, yeah, this is the area. They're right here. They're on the street at this exact spot where the mouse cursor is, because you can see the allotment buildings, and you can also see the apartment blocks right here. You can see the outline of their square or rectangular shape. So they are in that specific spot of the town, just giving you all a little bit of context as to how bad the damage is in certain areas. You see that this top floor on that one had collapsed. You see that that one's been completely abandoned and destroyed. See more allotment buildings, small houses. They are booking it. They're going at least 50 or 60 miles per hour on this road. They're now passing an incredibly long Khrushchevka building. It appears that this one also took incredibly moderate damage. Not incredibly heavy damage, but moderate, to say the least. Moving by a building that's been completely destroyed except for this facade, and every single building on this street has been completely leveled. Not a single one is left standing. It's incredibly unfortunate to see this kind of stuff, because not only will the Ukrainians have to deal with this massive challenge after the war of rebuilding these areas once they retake them, but it also has completely destroyed the lives of people who have lived here. This town will never look the same. Soledar will be rebuilt entirely differently than the way it was before. It'll probably be, I guess, the German story after the Second World War, where some towns were destroyed so badly and most buildings within these cities were demolished due to bombings that they were rebuilt entirely different after the war, and the only thing that remained was the road layout, but every single building may as well have never even existed before. And it's really sad to think that so many people's lives, legacies, and stories that have most likely been built over decades in this town are now just nothing but mere rubble and consigned to the pages of history. And so, with that, we're now going to be moving on out of Soledar, and we're going to be taking a look at the front lines once more, where you can see that the Russians are paying quite dearly for what they've done to the town of Soledar, as the Azov unit was hitting the Wagner in this area today as well. So, here's the clip. We can hear the trap remix starting. And we're going to have to mute it, sadly. I know the beats are absolutely bussing, but we're going to just watch this little guy look at him with a green crosshair. And it looks like this guy is actually a sniper, because as he waves his magic green crosshair of sleep over them, it appears that they all take naps. See, that guy just took a nap. Oh, wait a minute. No, sorry. He's a little resistant. He gave him a second napping pill, and it looks like he's now down and out for the nap. We now see artillery landing on him. It looks like it's landing quite effectively, getting right on top of the Russian infantry, the Wagner unit specifically, and starting to give them a hell of a time. We see them now firing once again at the Russian forces. They're giving them one hell of a time, I'll tell you that. You see another one right there.
That was almost on the border of a Rodney Dangerfield impression.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was like, that was weird. It almost sounded like I was trying to do Rodney Dangerfield. And we see that a lot of them are going and taking naps. This guy is giving out naps like, well, I can't make that joke, but there's a certain guy who used to be in the movie industry, and he was giving out naps, but in the wrong way. And we can see the artillery landing on the tree lines again, and we can now see some text up on the screen like it's a movie credit. Unfortunately, I can't read it that well, but it says something about our something. And at the end of the video right there, we can see that this is the Azov unit from Kharkiv. It's the Kharkiv Azov unit that was able to pull off these successes in the northern flank of the battlefield, and it's great to see that they were able to knock out so many Russians and also call in so much more artillery on the others as well. We're now going to be moving on from that clip, and we can see that the Russians certainly aren't paying for what they did to Soledar, and on into our next one, where we saw Ukrainian forces engaging the Russians in the northern area again, this time by the Special Forces Regiment Lubart, which we have never heard from before, but here's the clip. Once again, nice beats. We're going to have to mute it, though, before we get a copyright ID, where ads are run on this video later on after it airs. We can see them moving through the town. We see, of course, it's been largely destroyed in this area as well. Now see them moving into a house and firing at the Russians. And, oh, buddy, what's that, a long-barreled M4? That is.
That is a long snoot on that one.
That is a long barrel right there. That's long enough that you can actually just put that right on the Russians at 50 yards away. Like, you just put it out the window and stick it on like a stick. You now see them still firing at the Russians. We can't tell what rifle this guy is firing with. It looks like it's a different one than the one we just saw a second ago. And we can now see him firing a PKP. Very nice gun. Giving out the bursts. And also standing on a mattress, because soft, I guess you could say soft flooring is always very important. We now see him firing the PKP out this area of the window. And John Underwood said that was actually an M16A2, and I was thinking it was probably an M16, but I was like, I'm probably going to get it wrong anyway, so I'll just say M4. We can see this guy here firing his rifle. We couldn't really tell what kind it was. He's now reloading the underslung grenade. Actually, that's that little grenade launcher thing that the U.S. sent a while ago. And that's the end of the clip, but great to see the Lubart unit doing its job in the area and making sure to give the Russians another bit of a rough time. Because rough times are all that the Russians will ever get in life, and they're getting even rougher and tougher times as time goes by. Call them a Ford, because they're not really handling rough times too well. We're now going to be moving on down
There's
into
nothing wrong with Ford.
Okay, all right, I'll admit.
They make the
not...
Raptor. That's like their like redemption.
Yeah, the death wobble's a redemption, isn't it, Matthew?
Not the Raptor. That's like the F-350 or something.
Come on, we test drove one. That thing's got a death wobble in it like no other. We've test drove like 2 of them. They both wobbled. They wobbled above 50. They wobbled more than the U.S. wobbling on sending fighter jets. That is not good. That's definitely not anything you want to drive as a truck. But then again, almost every car wobbles really over a certain speed. So anyways, moving on.
It's heresy.
Whatever. But moving on into the center of Bakhmut, we have been seeing some interesting developments here as well. And while we go back to the map and we can see that over the past 24 hours, there has been no movement being made in the area of Bakhmut town, we're still seeing that a decent amount of activity is picking up here. So this amount of stagnation is really due to the amount of the Ukrainians at work, making sure that the front line does not move forwards. It just continues to stay where it is. So starting off with our first clip, we saw the Russian army, a video made by the Russian army, I'll have y'all know, and it showed the Russian army at their finest as they're trying to clear houses in the area of Bakhmut, and this apparently is why they're not making it that far. So, here's the clip. When you see a Russian soldier at the door over here, this guy is coming up, and he has a grenade right here in his hand. He throws it, it bounces off the wall, and right back out in front of him.
Oh.
Oh, look at,
big
wait a minute, did he just kick it? Wait. Oh, what an idiot. What an idiot. Why didn't he kick it in the door? Why didn't he kick it into the door? He kicked it out into the wide open where they're now trying to run away. And so,
oh my god.
Oh my god. He kicks it to where the shrapnel's going to travel right into the rest of his squad. And he's like, everyone, take cover on the wall. It's going to blow up in their face. Look, oh my god, what a joke. What a
How come
joke.
they're not reacting right? They're like confused, like they don't know what's happening.
They probably don't know what's happening. They just heard the grenade thunk around and they see him running back and going, get down. And they're probably like, what happened? What happened? Oh no. These guys are gone probably. We didn't get to see the grenade explode, but why the hell would your reflex be to kick it with your right leg to the left instead of into the door where it should go? Why? And then you turn around to your whole squad and you just know you screwed everyone over there. The grenade's out here. So all of your buddies, they're just going to get blown away. Alright, so anyways, we're going to be moving on from that clip because, of course, the Russians are at their finest right there. And let's see what the Ukrainians are doing in response. This Ukrainian tank probably is blowing away this Russian squad just a little bit later on in the day after they go around with their Three Stooges routine from house to house. So here's the clip. When you see the Russian squad in question right here where mouse cursor is, and they're going to start moving across this street, but down here at the bottom of the screen, where we cannot see, there's a Ukrainian tank lying in wait and waiting for these guys to get right there, hitting them with a high explosive shell and causing the survivors to scatter in every single direction, and the front part of the squad to be completely wiped out. So out of this group of about 7 guys, we only saw 3 of them run away. So 4 of them have been killed or wounded from that shell. I mean, see, the tank isn't going to give them any rest, though, as it now hits the area where 2 of the guys ran off to. We don't know if they were knocked out in that building or not, but it was a near dead-on hit. When you see a second shell hitting, just to make sure that they got the job done. That's the end of the clip. But I gotta say, man, that was pretty juice. I don't know how that tank saw
was like
those guys.
the laugh of the day, I gotta say.
Well, what, the grenade toss thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the laugh of the day. And I think that, honestly, Matthew, the numbers kind of match. This little squad that we saw getting hit by the tank looked to be the same size of the squad. Well, then again, all squads are uniform size, but it looked to be the same squad of guys that may have tossed that grenade into that house and failed. So it seems like one of the survivors was like, they have to put up a video to show what we did today, Bliet. And he put up the only video he took, which was them fibbing the grenade through the door and it popping right back out like a cartoon trick. And also, what's up with this?
Goodness.
Like, Is this like a Christmas tree farm down here, or are those like tank traps? I can't tell because
I can't tell either. Why would there be so many in one spot though?
Tank trap garden. I don't know. That's a good question. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip. Nice to see the Ukrainian tankers are doing their job in the area. And moving on to our last clip from the center of Bakhmut, we also saw some pictures of the Azov brigade at the front lines today. And once again, they're giving it to them. We can see the improvised Dishka machine gun that they have. Pretty cool. In the next picture, we can see a guy with an AKM, I believe. I forgot the name for the machine gun version of the AK with a longer barrel and the bipod, but he has that version of it. We can also see in the next picture this soldier crawling down an incredibly narrow trench. This is about one of the most narrow trenches I've seen in the war. Incredibly interesting as to why it's this narrow. And then the last picture, we can see a soldier firing what appears to be an AK-74 into the distance. We don't know what he's firing at, but hopefully he's fairly accurate. And, you know, it's crazy, Matthew, because now that we have that AK, like all of the AKs, now we know like how much they really weigh, how they really feel to hold. You know, like it's really weird to look at that because it's like, huh, we have one right back here. But anyways, really neat to see. It's great to know that the Azov Brigade is still carrying on that battle in the area and helping to keep those Russians at bay. Right now, it appears that the Russians are still going, by and large, with the encirclement plan. It looks like they also, at one point, a little while earlier, were trying to move into the area of Fedorivka or Vasyakivka to try and find a weakness or a weak spot further on up the line to see if they could break through and start trying to move even further down the highway towards Pravila, so that way they may be able to find more opportunities to break through weaker parts of the Ukrainian lines and help to create this encirclement a little bit better. Hey!
Joseph is back.
Joseph is back! Also, we will address that in a second, Joseph. Good to see that you're back. We made sure, and we were hoping that when we unbanned you, you did get unbanned, so welcome back. But moving on from that, it is nice to see that the Ukrainians are doing everything in their power to try and hold the Russians back and leading the Russians to do desperate acts such as literally wandering off into the wilderness, into practically the middle of nowhere, to try and find a weakness in the line that they could exploit later. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Bakhmut area. Of course, the news is getting fairly good here, and the condition is improving. And so with that, we're now moving on into the area of Kiev to talk about some of the interesting bits of news that we saw today from the capital city. But before we get to that, it is now time for us to get into one of the polls that I just saw go up a minute ago, because I was wanting to address it when it was up. It's really good, so let's get right into it, Matthew.
All right, so we have 3 polls to address for the first question segment, and the very first one said, many analysts now predict that Ukraine will hold Bakhmut until at least the anniversary of the war. What are your thoughts? 45% said that's better than expected, 11% said unsure, 39% said Ukraine may not lose Bakhmut, and 5% said that's still not good. Now, most people have thought that Bakhmut is a loss and they've already written it off, but the fact that they're holding it this long kind of indicates that that may not be the ultimate thing that happens. I'm going to go for Ukraine may not lose it, which seems like a little bit of a stretch considering what we've seen so far, but I think it's a possibility. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's definitely a possibility that the Ukrainians are going to hold Bakhmut, especially considering that for a while it appeared to be going completely against Ukraine's favor, with the Russians being able to take Krasnodar and also marching fairly quickly up the ridgeline and on their way towards Chasiv Yar. But now they're being pushed back in the south, which shows that even if the Russians are able to complete the one encirclement, one part, I guess one pincer of the encirclement near Krasnodar, they're not able to achieve the second. And to be able to finally win the Battle of Bakhmut, they have to achieve both of them at the same time, because that's the only way you can ensure that no supplies are making it into Bakhmut and force the Ukrainians' hand into withdrawing and leaving the town. That's the only way they can do it. But considering that the Ukrainians are playing their cards right and pushing the Russians back on at least one of the supply lines, I think that Bakhmut will be able to hold into a pretty good bit into the future. I would say at least a month or longer than that, but at least a month at the minimum, 30 days. So I hope we address that poll fairly well, because I'm certainly confident that the Ukrainians can hold this town. It appears, though, that they were getting in a very precarious position there for a little bit of while in Bakhmut, but they're now turning it around, and it's definitely an improving situation. So with that, I hope that addresses that one, and we are on to the next poll.
All right, and the second poll is actually breaking news. It only came out about 20 minutes ago. The U.S. calls off the search for the downed unidentified objects that were shot down only just I believe less than a week ago. What are your thoughts? It looks like 32% said good. They must have new intel. 30% said why was that decision made? 19% said unsure, and 20% said that is not a good decision. And I'm going to go with the 32% option that said they must have new intel, because if I had to take a stab at it, they've already recovered it, and they're going to pretend like they're now calling off the crash. Because why would they not want to recover the wreckage? That seems like very, very, very important to do. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say the same thing, to be honest with you. It appears that they have found the wreckage, because if anyone followed the air traffic control information, on flight radar, you would have noticed that there was a C-130 Hercules flying over the area. It then began to circle a specific spot. A helicopter was sent out to the area, hovered there for a while, and then left. So it appears that the C-130 was able to spot some floating debris. A helicopter was sent out, maybe with divers on board, to dive and try and see if they could find the wreckage, and if the water was shallow enough to recover or salvage the, I guess you could say, craft, whatever it may be, and they may have been successful in figuring that out. On top of that, we already know that the Great Lakes is not that deep in most areas, incredibly wide, incredibly huge, but not deep in most spots, only about maybe, I believe, at its deepest 500 feet deep, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong on that, but
I think they said it was 150 feet deep at the point where it crashed.
yeah, so that's not that bad at all. Hell, you could send divers down there to find the stuff and then coordinate recovery efforts from there. So I would say they've probably located the wreckage. They may actually be honest, though, in saying they're not recovering it, because the divers were able to get enough information and assess what it was for them to not necessarily have to recover the actual parts and equipment of the vehicle, but they still got a good enough idea of what it really is. So with that, I hope that addresses that poll the best I can, at least with the current information we have on that situation. And do we have another poll, Matthew?
And we have one last one, which says the U.S. estimates more than 30,000 Wagner fighters have been wounded or killed in Ukraine. And what are your thoughts on that? 59% said that that estimate is likely low. 21% said how did they know? 13% said unsure. And 7% said the estimate is likely high. And I would guess that the estimate is likely low. It's probably on the conservative side, especially coming, officially from the U.S. So that is my choice on that one. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, reread the line. I want to make sure I get this one right.
U.S. estimates more than 30,000 Wagner fighters have been wounded or killed in Ukraine.
Dang, they say that many? Like, that's actually a pretty high number just for the Wagner unit alone. I thought for a second that you were saying that was for the Wagner and the entire Russian military. I was going to be like, that's way, way too low. The British actually came out with a statement saying it's at least 60,000 dead today for the Russians, and they're usually on the very conservative end of how many deaths have the Russians really taken. So I would
and also, just a clarification, of those 30,000, reportedly 9,000 are the dead, and the rest are wounded.
I would actually say that going off of what the dead and wounded breakdown, that's probably accurate, especially for that one specific unit, considering that we've seen a massively high casualty rate for them over the Battle of Bakhmut, and also we've seen it on film how badly they get beat around. I wouldn't doubt it at all that that is the true count for how many Wagner soldiers have been killed and how many of them have been wounded based off of what we've seen. Honestly, for some reason, it feels like it is right on par or maybe even just a little high, but we don't have enough specific information on the Wagner unit's losses on this channel to really say otherwise. So I would say that that sounds like a fairly true number. What do you think about it, Matthew?
I would still say it's low, honestly, because the U.S. Tends to sort of stray on the conservative side when it comes to numbers. So I would guess it's probably higher than that.
Maybe. It might be. Who really knows? For me, it's kind of in between. We're actually on the complete opposite. It's kind of in between for me. It's right on the mark, or it's a little over, and you think it's fairly low. So I guess we'll just have to see at the end of the war, I suppose, if the Russians ever come out with official numbers, how many Wagner soldiers have been blown away. And I'm sure the number will be much higher by then, though. So anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well. And now let's get into the questions, because it appears that Joseph is back. So with that, let's get right into them.
All right, and the first one, as expected, while I take a bot out there for a second, is from Joseph M. Sika, who puts in a $100 donation, and thank you very much, Joseph. He says, "You banned me from talking the other night. I bet Putin is going to get assassinated, ? He deserves it. I love everyone in the channel, and what you do for Ukraine is amazing. I wish I could start a channel, and did you Patton said After World War II, we should have went all the way to Moscow.
And thank you so much for the support, Joseph. To address why, because I think you don't remember why, because it sounds like you may not remember that night. I guess I'll fill you in on what happened. So the night that you got banned, you were like bent, like you were drunk beyond belief and could hardly type straight in the live chat. And you started sending in hundreds of dollars of super chats, and we kept on telling you to stop and not send them in because you were drunk and you may not know what you were doing. So after several of them, we were like, man, we don't want you to get up tomorrow and realize how bad of a mistake you made and let you like dig a terrible hole if that was what you may have been doing. So we ended up banning you for that night and then unbanning you right after that stream. So you should have been able to talk last night. But we never saw you in here. So that was the reason why, and I hope that that was the right call on our end, because I would hate to have known that things have gone terribly for you. But still, I thank you so much once again for support, Joseph, and coming back. You've actually been the point of conversation for Matthew and me, because when you didn't show up last night, we're like, is he going to show up again? Where is he? Like,
Yes,
hopefully
you had
he
us
shows
very
up.
worried.
Yeah, we were like, hopefully you didn't take that the wrong way, because we were just trying to make sure that you wouldn't do anything that was a mistake. So I got to thank you so much once again for the support. And I don't know if Putin would get assassinated or not. I feel like at this point, after seeing that little robo soldier on the ATV today with a look in his face, I think he does want to be assassinated at this point. But still, I think he does deserve it. I would agree with that. Also, it's great to hear that you love everyone on this channel, because we care for every single one of y'all. And that's kind of oddly enough why we temporarily banned you that one night, to make sure that you wouldn't do anything to screw yourself over. On top of that, there was a whole entire thing in the chat, and I don't know if you saw it, where people were trying to encourage you to send in more, and we actually ended up banning most of those people, if I'm correct, Matthew.
Yeah, it was like one or two of them.
Yeah, one or two of them, and then they started cussing us out because we weren't allowing them to try and help possibly put someone in a bad situation. But still, thank you so much for enjoying this channel, Joseph. I'm glad that you're back, and I thank you so much once again for helping us out. And also, I was just wondering, Matthew, has Joseph said that was a good call or a bad call?
I just see him saying he loves us all, so I guess that means it was a good call.
Okay. So, with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Joseph. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and thank you for helping us to keep this thing rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and long live the Lee Spring Army.
All right, and up next we have a $50 super chat from, hopefully I'm going to pronounce this right. I think I butchered it last time, but let's see how I do. James Lisavsky, who puts in that 50 and says the Robo Soldier might be the next Russian to commit the suicide.
At that kind of speed, it's going to be really hard. Like, what's he going to do? Fall off and get dragged by the ATV at 4 miles an hour? I doubt it. But I still thank you so much for the support. You may be right. That may be the next thing to jump out of a window. But how does RoboCop die? Because I don't think RoboCop can die from falling, if I'm correct. I think you can only...
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, honestly, I have no idea. Maybe it will, though. I'm not gonna say it can't. I'm gonna hold out hope that it may be able to. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that addresses that comment fairly well. And since you brought it up, I think we should look at that just one more time, because it's the funniest thing. So let's look at Robo Soldier. The camera pan makes this the most comical thing. Oh, it's so stupid. Why does it look like someone riding a scooter? You know, like...
Yeah. It's just so comical looking. Like, it's just hard to believe they'd actually, like, present this.
This is something you would see on Top Gear as, like, a gaff. I love it. Look at this stupid thing. It's got no suspension in it, so it's just rocking over every single bump.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I love it. But still, I thank you so much once again for the support. I think you might be right on that one. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the segment before we get on to the Kiev news, the location unknown news, and also the rest of the news across the front lines. So with that, who is the last person who threw in the last question of this segment?
All right, and also, did you address the patent comment from Joseph's super chat? By the
Oh,
way?
wait a minute. No, I didn't. I forgot. Patton did
Call
say...
him out.
Call him out. Call him out. But Putin... Patton did say... Patton and Putin kind of rhymed for some reason, but Patton did say at the end of the Second World War that we ended up fighting the wrong people the entire time. I don't think he realized at that point when he said that, though, that... Like, what were we supposed to do? Ally with the Nazis or something? Like, that wouldn't make much sense. But anyways... He said that we should fight the Soviet Union and we should go all the way to Moscow and completely level them. That also was a little bit of a weird take, too, considering that we were heavily outnumbered at the end of the Second World War when the Russians and the U.S. met and created a brand new front line in between the two that would later on kind of solidify into the front lines of the Cold War. We were heavily outnumbered at that moment. It would have been advantageous, but... Give it about another year or a year and a half's time, and we had enough nuclear bombs, and the Russians had none, that we could have started nuking them across Eastern Europe and slowly rolling our way to Moscow. Although, it starts to beg the question, is that really okay? Because then that would have justified nuclear weapons being used in any war from there forward. But yes, that is correct, Joseph. He did actually say that we should have gone to war with the Soviets at the end of the Second World War and gone all the way to Moscow and defeated them at that very moment. But then again, General Patton also beat a guy to death in the First World War with a shovel. So take that for what you will. And it wasn't a German, it was an American guy that he beat to death. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, Joseph, but I don't think he was wrong on that one comment. And with that, I think we've rounded out this question segment, haven't we?
Well, we actually have that one more to get to, which is from John Luke Sills, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you, John Luke, for sending me that translation to American currency. That helped me out a ton. Also, John said, is it true that Germany backs off promises and sends a lot less leopards?
I haven't heard about that. I have heard that apparently, according to some people, the Ukrainians will be getting less tanks, but I haven't heard any specific information about the Germans changing the numbers of tanks that they'll be sending. So, well, let's actually Google that right now. Let's find an answer to that. German tank news. First Leopard tanks to be deployed to Kiev very soon. That was 11 hours ago from the BBC. So, let's see here. Speaking at the annual Munich Security Conference, let's see. The event is an annual gathering of leaders. The vice president was there. Schultz! Oh God! Watch out! If Volodymyr Sololov reads this article, he'll be going Schultz, Schultz, Schultz. Let's see. Germany, who in recent months came under growing pressure, agreed in January to allow heavy tanks. It also allowed other countries to send their Leopards, which was restricted under export regulations. No Russian officials were invited to this meeting. Duh! I mean, like, do you even have to add that in? But it doesn't give the number because originally it was supposed to be 14. But I'm not really seeing. Okay, so on January 25th, they announced 14 of them, but I haven't heard any information saying that they've lowered that number. And it doesn't appear that there's any that we can find on the front page of Google, although that may have happened. Let's see, right here it says, and this is on the 25th of January, which is once again the same day that they made the official announcement for 14, that they were sending 14. But I haven't seen anything in between then and now that says that they're sending less. So with that, I thank you so much for the support, Jean-Luc Picard, or, Jean-Luc Sills. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I was just kidding, by the way. Helping this channel keep on running, but I haven't seen any information right now that definitively states that they'll be sending less than 14 Leopard 2s. And so with that, we've rounded out this question segment, and it's now time for us to move on into Kiev and cover some of the interesting news we saw today, starting off with the Dutch Prime Minister visiting Kiev, which is really cool and really interesting in a way, because she visited today, and last night we had someone, I forgot who it was specifically, I forgot the exact name, but y'all sent in a super chat telling us to look at the town you live in the Netherlands, which was the town of, it was near Wies, it's somewhere around here, isn't it? It's not that one. Hang on. Let me go find it real quick. Naarden! It was Naarden. We had a viewer send in a super chat telling us to look at his town of Naarden. And what's crazy is that we were looking at a Dutch town last night on stream, and now the Dutch Prime Minister has arrived the Dutch Prime Minister has arrived in Kiev for a visit. You can see her looking over some of the destroyed Russian tanks. We can see that the Ukrainians tried to put this one together, but it appears that the turret and the hull no longer fit anymore. I wonder why. And we can also see her looking at the remnants of a shot-down missile. We can also see that they visited the Wall of Remembrance. I had to make sure the name was correct, of some, I believe it's not all of the Ukrainian soldiers and civilians that have been killed, but a decent amount of them that have been wounded or killed over this war are represented on this wall, and you can see that it's stood at guard by Ukrainian soldiers, most likely at all hours of the day. But once again, great to know that the Dutch are over there and showing their support for Ukraine, and also it's been supposed that they'll be sending Leopard 1 tanks, over 100 of them, to Ukraine in the future, although we don't know the exact details on whether that'll happen at this moment or not, but still nice to hear of. We're now going to be moving on into our next bit of news from Kiev, where we could see Kiev at night, and I thought this was a really cool little video because the snow was falling, the city lights were on, and it looked really neat. And so, here's the clip. We can hear the lo-fi music playing that you would hear in a cafe in some posh area. And you can see the night sky, the lights, and the snow. You can also see some police sirens coming down the street. And it's kind of wild to see that after the Battle of Kiev ended, Kiev has kind of just returned to normal. Now, heavy traffic, even at this hour of the day, I'm sure that it's actually a pretty normal part of the day over there, like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But it's just gotten pitch black over there because they're higher up towards the North Pole, and so they get less sunlight per day. But still, neat to see, and it's great to know that citizens of Kiev are largely living a normal life, even when every once in a while they come under bombardment from cruise and ballistic missiles all the way from the Russian Federation. We're now going to be moving on to our last bit of news from the Kiev area, where we can see that these citizens have been able to return to their lives thanks to a sponsor by NordVPN. I'm just kidding, it's actually the Stormer HVM. It rhymes with NordVPN, and we can see the operators, the crew of the Stormer HVM, standing right in front of it with its Starstreak missiles equipped. The Stormer HVM is the British Frontline air defense system that has been used throughout the entirety of the British Armed Forces for quite a while, I believe ever since the 90s, and also employs an incredibly interesting missile. The Starstreak. The Starstreak had been sent to Ukraine a while before the Stormer HVM even appeared, but it is still a very distinct and very unique AA system. I'll try and show y'all one of the Starstreak missiles the best I can, if I can find one. And there we go, right there. You can see a Stormer HVM firing one of its Starstreaks, and you can see that at the end of it, the warhead is not a single warhead. It's 3 separate darts. And what's cool about the Starstreak system is that it's not a single, I guess you could say, warhead like you would see on a surface-to-air missile like an S-300 and S-400, or even a Javelin manpad or something similar to that. These are 3 little darts, and these things spin around each other in flight until they hit a target. It also has a little bit of a drawback that it has to be manually guided all the way to its target until it hits, and it also is not a proximity fuse charge, it is a direct impact weapon. So there are a couple of drawbacks to the systems. It is best used against helicopters, but the Ukrainians have been using these things fairly effectively, and we can see that one of them makes up a part of Kiev's air defense network that ensures that the skies remain safe above Kiev, even during missile and cruise missile attacks. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Kiev news and that last little pic showing how Kiev is staying so safe at this point in the war, and we're now going to be moving on into our location unknowns. And we've had some juice today. So starting off with our first bit, we have a little bit of a interesting bit of juice in you know, getting past the joke of calling everything in this section juice. A Russian priest attacked a Ukrainian priest giving a prayer during the middle of a funeral for a soldier. And I've never seen anything like this before during the course of this war, but if it doesn't show you that the Russian Orthodox Church of the Russian Patriarchy is not some kind of a pro-Putin shill organization, I don't know what will, considering that they'll do this in the middle of a funeral for a soldier that died in the country that they live in. So here's the clip.
Дорогі у Христі, брати і сестри.
You see the Russian priest right there. We see the Ukrainian priest and him getting into an altercation. And this was filmed in July of 2022, but I have never seen this clip before. And considering that it showed up today, I thought I'd show it to y'all because It's bizarre to think that this ever happened at all, whether it happened today or months ago. It's insane. And then this woman who's supporting the priest is going to come up to the cameraman and act like she has the right to put a cloth over his camera so he can't film it. It's like, you're not in Russia, woman. People ought to be beating the hell out of this guy and her at the same time and throwing them out of this place. Insane. Absolutely insane. But there's not really much to add to it. It is what it is. And I think that that's a good reason why the Ukrainians later on in the war, I believe it was just about a month or two ago, banned the Russian patriarchy from the country because they may as well be a pro-Russian propaganda organization, and they do such insane things like going to funerals and trying to disrupt them with pro-Russian propaganda or something like that. It's insane. So with that, we're moving on to the next clip where you can see a Ukrainian drone dropping a bomblet onto a Russian soldier. And Matthew, you banned to eat food. How are we supposed to eat? How are we supposed to eat?
I thought you were about to say you knew him or something.
No,
I pulled him up and it looked like he was spreading propaganda.
Oh, he's spreading the propaganda. That's right. He's eating a little bit too much of that Russian food, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see the bomblet dropping on the Russians, and it looks like these Russians won't be eating food; they'll be eating a bomblet. Ooh, not a fun day for him. He needs some milk.
Eat food.
I guess you can say eat and be merry. You see one Russian playing hopscotch, and then laying down on the road as well. With that, that's the end of the clip, but pretty wild to see. Nice to know that this guy will be eating something. It's not food, but it looks like he was eating shrapnel. We're now going to be moving on into our next clip of Location Unknown News, where you see another Russian prisoner of war being taken. You see them dragging him along. We can also see he has the famous butt plate. It's good to know that his butt will be protected from shrapnel and other things, and his butt will be safe with the butt plate. Make sure to get your butt plate for $9.99 at your local Target, or you can buy one on Amazon for $8.99. Butt plate. That's buttplate.com. www.buttplate.com. It looks like they're taking Mr. Butt Plate on a jog. Trying to exercise those glutes. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. And you know something I was just thinking, Matthew, is that the butt plate may actually be providing more than just one form of protection. Because if you ever find yourself around the Kadyriovites, it is a vital piece of kit. And something you definitely want to keep around on your person at all times near the Kadyriovites. But still,
definitely.
That's the end of that clip. And it looks like they got another Russian prisoner today. Sadly, we don't know what part of the line, but another one was added to the group. We're now going to be moving on to watching a Russian depot get destroyed. This is something of a rarer film these days, and it looks like it went sky high. Let's take a look. Oh, that music sounds good, but, you know, we're scared of music. And, of course, courtesy to the 28th Brigade that blew this thing away. But you see the Russian depot right out there in the distance? We can see an artillery shell hitting it right dead on in the building. We can see some Russians running around. You know, they're having a day. You know, this is another day for them. Folks are getting blown away. Artillery shells and ammunition are going sky high. It's just another normal day for the logistician of the Russian army. The artillery is still landing around the area. It's still landing, but we can see a little fire starting to break out in that main building. And it's starting to smoke a fairly good bit. Sadly, the Russians do not have access to Smoky the Beer, bliet. They have access to Smoke, the Lucky Strike Bear, bliet. He offers cigarette. Oh man, that thing is on fire now. Good lord. I don't know what's in this building. It doesn't appear to be ammunition. It may be some other kind of stored equipment for the military. But that thing is up in flames, and it looks like whatever the Russians were storing there won't be used any longer.
It must be some vinyl chloride, bliet.
It must be some of that vinyl chloride, bliet. I'm starting to taste PVC, bliet. But with that, we're now moving on from that clip, and we're now moving on into the Russian losses for today on February 17th. Ooh!
Oh! Two!
Two! Yeah, uno, dos. Does.
Wow.
Bobcats.
Even the troop losses are like steep again today.
Oh yeah, they call this thing Mount Everest because that stuff be steep. 800 Russian soldiers killed in 24 hours. An entire BTG's worth of soldiers that has been killed because 800 soldiers makes up exactly 1 battalion tactical group of the Russian army. 3 armored personnel carriers were also destroyed today. That's actually an incredibly low number, to be quite honest, especially off of our past 2 weeks going off of that. This is somewhat low, but the infantry losses are once again incredibly high. And it appears that the vehicle and infantry losses are directly correlating with each other. If the vehicular losses are low, the infantry losses are high. If the infantry losses are lower, the vehicle losses are higher. We also saw that they lost a whopping 20 supply trucks today, now taking that number up to 5,187. And going off of the original number that we had at the beginning of this war, the Russians only had 4,000 supply trucks in their armed forces at the start to supply their entire military with. So they've now lost well over 125% of their initial logistics force that they entered the war with, and this extra 20 trucks being destroyed is certainly not helping. Another 2 tanks were destroyed today, somewhat average, but a little below average, to be honest, but it's almost on the average mark, because 3 is the average recently. 16 artillery pieces destroyed. That is an incredibly high number. We rarely ever see that large of a number of artillery pieces getting destroyed, so good on the Ukrainians. We also saw a drone get destroyed. 1 drone, only 1. So, like an Orlan got shot down somewhere, and the Russians lost a Nikon camera. We also saw that a BM-21 Grad was also destroyed today, or something similar. Nice to see. 14 cruise missiles were shot down, and you can see that that number was collected from yesterday because there was a missile attack the other day. 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems were also destroyed as well, and it appears the Ukrainians are directing a campaign to wiping out the air systems because they're starting to take out a consistent amount of them daily, like 2 or 3 of them. So the Russians lost about another $30 million in air systems today. Nice to see. And of course, keep it up. And so with that, that's the loss report for the day. I hope to see these numbers continue to climb as the coming months go by, and we're now going to be moving on out of the location unknowns and on into the front lines to cover all of the other news that isn't based in Bakhmut. So starting off with the northeast, we have to go over the frontline analysis. Let's see what happened. Past 24 hours. Nothing. Literally nothing. No frontline movement at all. Scary, right? It's going to be scary when the Ukrainians make it move. But moving on to the Kuzamivka area, we can see some Ukrainian soldiers take out an APC at point-blank range. So, here's the clip. When you see it moving along with the Escape from Tarkov music playing in the background, it appears to be a BMP-1, and you see the Ukrainian that's about to pull that lucky shot right over here. The BMP is just driving by casually, and the Ukrainian, poop, right into the engine bay, and that thing's done for. How the hell do the Russians just drive APCs like this all over the place, and never think, there might be some Ukrainian soldiers in this tree line directly to my right. Maybe I have to look over there or something. It doesn't even cross their mind. They're just like, yeah, Google told me to take a lift, and I'm taking the lift, bleed. And so he just gets hit by an RPG. You can even watch the shell fly across the snow right there. You see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Boom. And it's down. This thing's gone. The engine...
Look at that big old plate of metal go flying off the front.
Yeah, that was the engine bay hood. When you see the engine is burning. When you see the commander hop out immediately.
Oh, he's stumbling.
Oh, he's fumbling.
He doesn't know what's going on.
He ran back up behind the vehicle. Kind of a smart move. And that's the end of the clip, but we never saw the driver or the gunner get out, which may show that both of them took a nap inside of that tank, well, the APC, and they won't be coming back out. So... quite nice to see, and of course, keep it up, Ukraine. Also, there's a video I feel like I should mention today. I wasn't able to show it on stream, but there's a guy out there in the Ukrainian Armed Forces with a literal golden AK. And he was able to hold off an entire Russian push on this trench today on video. I couldn't show it because it showed Russian soldiers getting shot pretty much 20 yards from the cameraman, but it was impressive nonetheless. And in case you all have never seen a golden AK, his was a little different. It was like a modern golden AK, but this is a golden AK. Which is kind of a little wild looking. Also,
wow, Atlantic Arms has one for sale.
Wait, let me take this off the screen because YouTube doesn't like us showing this stuff, but let me see how much it is. It's sold out. Who would it? Holy,
you're kidding.
Wait, hang on. The pistol
How much was
version.
it?
The pistol version of these, though, is $4,800, and I'm not paying $4,800 for an AK, even if it is plated in gold. That's outrageous. But still, fairly interesting to hear about, fairly interesting for me to watch, and if y'all want to find that, y'all can probably find that in my Discord server, link in the description below, and it was one hell of a video. It's definitely worth the watch, and I saw it for the first time today thanks to one of my great moderators, Rambo Kurt, who is also one of the really good moderators to help to get this new Discord server running. So with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Svatove area and further on down the line through the quietness of the rest of the northeastern front and on down towards Kreminna, because we saw a Russian working by the book, or cooking by the book, as you could say, because this guy saw a drone and he started rolling to relative safety. And here he goes. Oh, that's copyrighted.
Oh,
but he's
very
rolling.
copyrighted.
He's rolling, rolling, rolling. Roll, blade. Let me get under this beam. Let me keep rolling into the middle of the street. Oh, blade. Very nice, blade. What the hell does he think that's going to accomplish? He never even got out of line of sight with the drone. He just started rolling. Lame. Lame. I give this guy 5 minus points. Minus 5 points for the stupidity of the roll. He needs to go back to training and learn that the roll has to be done quickly over the shards of glass that are probably down there on the ground. So with that, we're now going to be moving. You know something I was just thinking, Matthew? That's probably true. This guy is rolling over nothing but, like, shards of glass and sharp, jagged objects like pieces of brick and stuff doing that. Like, what's the point of that?
They didn't train him to avoid the glass.
They didn't teach me in training that the ground would not be a nice soft mat. They didn't tell me that it would literally be just a sharp, jagged crap. But with that, we're now moving on to our other clip from Kreminna, where we could see some Ukrainian soldiers fighting the Russians, and this time it's not from the VDV, quote-unquote's perspective, it's from the Ukrainians. And also, I love the caption on this video because it says, battles between the armed forces of Ukraine and the Royal Air Force in the Kreminna Forest.
What?
It says RAF, which stands for Royal Air Force, but it really means Russian Armed Forces. But still, it's like, when I first read that, the first time I was putting this on the news, I thought it meant Royal Air Force. I was like, what? I was like, is this like a training exercise? But no, it's actually the Battle of Kreminna. You see them moving on out of their trench. Some of them have winter camo, some of them don't. You hear a gunfight starting right in front of them. You see them getting down and firing in the direction of the fire coming in. And this guy is giving it to him. It's a machine gun! Okay!
Roll Tide. He must have like unlimited ammo or something.
Dude, the Russians are about to call the admin. Dude, he's cheating, блядь. He's got unlimited ammo.
Да, вони як будто обходять.
We now see them all having a chit-chat in the trench.
Охолонь, братан.
We now hear the bullets bouncing right over him.
Dang, there he goes
Dude,
again.
this guy, man. This guy, I like him. I like him. He is willing to lay out the ammo for the possibility of getting one of them. Like, he just hears like a sound, like it's like a flying over his head, and he's like, oh. And he's like, get him.
He only has one speed, pedal to the floor.
He's reloading. One of his million boxes he's got of ammo. Oh, you hear the gunfire. I love him. This is great. Clipping from spot to spot of him just doing this over and over. This guy really knows what a machine gun is. Like, if he went to training with the Americans, they would never have to sit there and go, hey, it's a machine gun. They'd tell him, hey, slow down. Like, stop shooting so much.
When the report said that Ukraine's using as much ammo as NATO can make at the moment, they put this guy's picture next to it.
This is the kind of machine gun you want in your squad. Wow, look at him. Now you see them launching some
wow.
grenades.
Fire it all.
Oh, you see them hanging out as those grenades land further down range. I don't know if those are actually the grenades, because that sounds a lot louder than grenades. I mean, I hear artillery landing near them. They're now on the move, carrying up some ammo cams with them as well, probably for that machine gunner who has a very hungry machine gun, and that's the end of the clip. But man, they are really giving it to the Russians in that area, especially this guy. He just hears something move in the distance. He hears a twig break, and he puts down at least 2 boxes of ammo on that twig. Like, he's like, we're not letting anything survive us. And probably nothing is surviving him, honestly, but we can't really tell because we can't see that on film. But that's the end of the clip, and you see the Ukrainians are doing a fairly good job at fighting the Russians in the Kreminna area, or at least laying down some ammo on them.
We're going to have to nickname that guy. I see folks in the chat saying Machine Gun Kelly.
No, we're not naming him after the rapper Bliet. We're not naming him after Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun... Okay, listen. Let me go pull him up. I don't have nothing...
No, not the rapper. You know, there's another guy called Machine Gun Kelly, right?
I know, but everyone talks about this rapper guy.
Oh, not that guy. Oh, what the hell? No.
Yeah, like, I'm not really into this dude. Let me go pull up the other one, though. Gangster. American Gangster. Look at this guy, Machine Gun Kelly. Look, Xiaomi gun. I have that Xiaomi gun. Hey, I have that one. Bada bing, bada boom. And we can see him right here being taken away by the feds. Man, the feds.
Look at that. They have a picture of that other guy next to the real gangster, and they said real gangster history. What the hell?
What?
Get that off the screen.
But dude, why is this guy... Why in the world does this guy have a furrowed eyebrow in his mugshot? It's like he's trying to like get with the chicks through the picture.
He looks like he'd probably be a nice guy. You wouldn't expect he's a machine gunner.
Oh, get the hell out of here, man! This guy was this guy was cutting people in half. Like, this guy is not a nice guy. Look at him in this picture. Honestly, though, he looks like I don't know how to describe it. He looks like H3 Productions. Not gonna lie.
Oh no.
Oh my god, he does, doesn't he? Though.
I don't think so.
Well, kind of. And also, look, this lady, she's holding the Thompson. You know, I'm surprised she's holding it, because this thing is so heavy, I would feel like she'd have a really hard time holding it. Oh, look, there's Machine Gun Kelly again. Nice to see. Nice to see real gangster hours.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And look at these guys. Well, I love how the federal agents also just carried around Tommy guns back in the day, like that was a normal thing. And then this man back here just rocking the Winchester shotgun. It's like these guys are gonna be just like peppering the house, killing everyone inside of it. He's gonna make sure they run out the back door and get some there too. Like, they didn't play around back in the day when they armed these people. And also the suits were pretty good too. I like the double-breasted buttons on that suit jacket. But anyways, we're getting way sidetracked here. We will call that Ukrainian soldier though Machine Gun Kelly, after the American gangster, not the rapper, because the gangster was cool. The rapper, he kind of looks like a poser. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Kreminna area and further on down. Someone's about to say, yeah, you don't know anything about posing like that. It's like, yeah, I do. If you wear like that many tattoos and you dress like that, you're obviously not a gangster. I can tell you
He's
that.
probably like an edgy teenager. It's like, grow up.
You see, a real gangster would sit there and say something like this. He would put a gun in your mouth and he'd go, I'm not a gangster, I'm a businessman, and my business is crime.
That always made me cringe a little bit. It's kind of like cringy what that guy said.
Kind of, but I'm not going to rat on him too much, because that guy was seriously like a pretty wild guy. But anyways, with that, we're going to be moving on through the Bielorivka and Verkno-Kamyanka area, because nothing really happened here today. And we're going to also be moving past the area of the Bakhmut front, because we've already covered that news a little bit earlier on in stream. But now it's time for us to get on down into the Donetsk area around Orlivka and also Konstantinivka, where we saw the alligator sniper rifle in action again. This is something that's on my wish list, because I have to admit, it's a pretty cool gun. And considering that the caliber is larger than a 50, and the barrel's big enough that you could put this thing on an armored personnel carrier and use it, I think it is pretty neat. But we see this guy firing it, and somehow they were able to make a silencer that could handle the force and the power of this round. That's an insane rifle, man. I don't feel like that's even practical. That's an anti-tank rifle by World War II standards, but they're just out there and they're using it, and I gotta give them credit. He handled it fairly well. So with that, We're now going to be moving on a little bit behind the lines, where we saw the Ukrainians putting a Leleka on the mission, because reconnaissance is one of the most important things in keeping Ukraine's edge over the Russians. It allows them to prepare in advance for what the Russians will most likely be doing, and without this reconnaissance, this vital reconnaissance, the Ukrainians wouldn't be as successful as they are. And we can see one of those Ukrainian reconnaissance groups firing off a Leleka to send it on a mission to help support the troops in this area. And so here's the video, of course, courtesy to Radio Free Europe.
I like how nicely packed it comes in like a pelican and everything.
Yeah, it's so nice. Also, that moon looks like a big, like, smiling mouth. It's the Cheshire Cat. That's what I was thinking of, Matthew. I was trying to pin it. It's the Cheshire Cat. Someone needs to put two little eyes up there in the sky. It would be the Cheshire Cat smile.
Yeah.
Flying in the daylight doesn't bring you as much information as at night. Interesting. When it's dark, you can see Russian personnel and equipment, trenches, and dugouts.
Hey, it's Vlad.
Hey, it's Vlad. You won't see as much during the day. They're still getting the Leleka ready to fly, and they're using Leleka 100 unmanned aerial vehicles. It offers vital reconnaissance and targeting capabilities to Ukraine's army. As we see him throwing it up into the air, and now it's on its way. Although it's dark and you can't see much, Ukrainian air recon is at work.
Аеророзвідники починають роботу. У цьому їм має
допомогти
термальна камера на борту безпілотника, завдяки якій мають бачити теплові сигнатури обриси техніки або взагалі будь-якого тепла.
We now see them observing the drone as it flies. We can find their equipment during the day, but it's harder because you have to focus on every minute detail. Here you don't have to look hard, it's just there. It's an armored vehicle. It's hard to say what type exactly from this distance. I hope it's not air defense. There's a campfire. This means there's a fire, and it's a chimney from a dugout. It's a hit. It's smoking. Where is it? It's where the tank was. One tank down. Good. And they actually got a tank too. Nice. They spotted a campfire and then turned a Russian tank into another campfire. It's better to launch a drone 5 times than to send in troops without knowing what's down there. That's an incredibly true statement. This job saves lives, so it's very important. Reconnaissance and targeting directly affects developments on the front line. We see a Russian tank on the move down there that the Leleka was watching. There are 7 tanks in one spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's an 8. So it's 7 or 8 tanks in one spot. As soon as they're fired at, they have to retreat because they have no other choice. They either burn or leave. This time they managed to escape, but the day isn't over yet. Now you see the chunky Leleka coming in for a landing. A pretty hard landing, actually, but it looks like it's okay. They now just pick the thing up like a toy, go running back with it with some of the wheat falling off of it, and that's the end of the clip. But
what's it made out of? Fiberglass or like what kind of material?
I think it may be made out of fiberglass. It's something incredibly light. That's one thing for certain. It's not styrofoam. I think it is fiberglass.
Yeah, it's pretty strong, actually. They should make all like RC planes out of that. I'm sure it's not cost effective, but that'd be nice.
Instead of those cheap as hell little styrofoam things where you like land it wrong and it just tears apart. Like flying RC planes would actually be doable for most normal people at that point that have somewhat shaky hands like me, because you wouldn't be able to rip apart your RC plane on impact with the ground if it was just a little heavy. But with that, it's great to know what kind of reconnaissance vehicles like the Leleka the Ukrainians are using and how much of an impact they make on how this war is unfolding. It's really one of the largest reasons why the Ukrainians are so successful right now, is because they're able to see things that the Russians don't see about the Ukrainians. They're able to see where the Russians are hanging out in the tree lines, what kind of vehicles they have, where they may be trying to conduct pushes well in advance before the Russians even get there and get into the battle, so that way the Ukrainians can react in time that by the Russians get there, by the time the Russians get there, it's a slaughter. So that we're now going to be moving on further down and into the Donetsk area, and of course looking at this on the map, and I'll show you this real quick. Over the past 24 hours, look at that. There's been small movements forward in this area. It appears that the Russians are moving on the highway near Novoselivka-Druha, and also down here, they were able to move forward through one field near Vodine. So it appears that they're not making any large movements, and once again, nothing is really happening in this area. But in the Avdiivka direction, we did see the 36th Brigade hitting some Russian soldiers. Cool little emblem right there. And we're now going to be viewing this. We can see the Russians walking in a line right there. It almost looks like they're also walking in step, which is kind of wild. They're now moving around. Bomblet or a mortar fell right on top of them. Got a couple of them. We now see a bomblet dropping on top of this one lone guy standing here. Ooh, and he's down and out. We can see another bomblet dropping. And, ooh, another one. We see another bomblet dropping, and... oh, right on top.
Jaga, jaga.
Jaga, jaga. Igor! Oh, that was bad. Did something happen?
My goodness.
Oh, help me. But we see a bomblet dropping right in the trench. You could see right there on the thermals. You see what I'm talking about, y'all? The shrapnel travels. You can actually see the heat signature of it traveling down the trench. Remember, kids, never dig your trenches in a straight line. See how it travels? It's dangerous. You gotta have zigzags or cigarettes. It's just the rule. And you still see these guys running around as they're still getting hit by bomblets. You can see some more of them getting hit right here. Oh, bleed. Shrapnel. The step, trap, and roll does not work yet. Just step, trap, and roll. We see 4 of them right here getting hit by a bomblet. Poof. Oh, right on them. Ooh. Or as they say in California, right on, man. And we see a second one landing right on them. Oh, man, they got screwed. You now see them dropping the needle. Drop the needle. Oh, my God, the needle is like nuclear.
Wow.
Dang.
What kind of explosive is that?
I don't know, but it looks like it had like an APSTS shell sticking out of the front of it. I don't know what this thing was, but this thing has a blast on it. And it's a blast to use against the Russians, I'm telling you. You see them dropping a second one.
Wow.
Call this a double tap. The United States would be proud. We see that the Russians were gotten good and well there, and they're now moving on to the next area. Now we're looking at it through the Predator vision. We can see the bomblet exploding in the tree line. We can see a Russian down there to the bottom right. It looks like he's kind of out for the count. Now we can see a lot of Russians here on this street. They're just kind of chilling on this street. The bomblet's dropping right on top of them, and I'm sure the Russians just think it's rain. We can now see a large group of them having a bomblet dropped on them in a different thermal vision. We can see the bomblet drop. A couple of them dropped to the floor. And some of them stopped, dropped, and rolled. That video spread around. Kind of like the weights being spread out of the clown motel. We now see another bomblet dropping on these guys. One of them was wounded. The second one got up and ran. Wow, that's a big unit. And it just got about half its size just in seconds. Also, it appears that that one guy got thunked on the head. Like, we need the cartoon, like, thunk sound like that. Thunk! I think that happened to him. But that squad was about reduced in size by half, and it looks like they're getting hit. That's all I can really say about it. It will blow your mind, Elmer Kilrid. It will blow your mind. And so that's the end of that clip. And fairly nice to see that the Ukrainians are still giving it to the Russians. Let's go, Ukraine. And give it to the Russians. You know what I mean? Anyways, we're moving on to the Donetsk area. That's all the video footage we got from there today. And moving on into the southern front, we saw absolutely nothing happen. Even in Soledar, nothing happened today on video or picture, which may show that the Russians are now withdrawing off the field in that area because the offensive has gone so poorly. But in Velika Novosilka, we did see some sappers trying to keep the land safe and also falling under an artillery barrage and then once again getting right back to their work. And so, here's the video.
Oh, shit.
When you see them doing their job, when you hear the report of artillery in the distance, then you hear it getting closer to them. It's almost like a rolling barrage. When you see them looking around and trying to think of what they might need to do next. Now that you see them still moving around, they're getting down because the artillery is practically landing right on top of them. And it sounds like the barrage is now past. They're now getting back up. And the video loops again. But it's great to know that the sappers are behind the lines doing their jobs. It's unfortunate to know that their jobs will become a little bit more difficult because now they have to go back into the areas that were just barraged to try and make sure there's nothing explosive left in that area. But, of course, the sappers are doing an incredible job, and I wish them the best of luck, and I hope that they stay as safe as possible. We're now going to be moving on from Velika Novosovka and past the Zaporizhzhia area because we saw a tank hiding near the Enhedar power plant, and it appears that if I remember correctly, let me make sure to read the caption just so that way I can remember this correctly, because if I got this correct, the tank was blown up. But the Russians decided to hide a tank near the Kakhovka hydro power plant. Using an FPV drone, the funds for which were gathered by Ukrainians, the SOF of Ukraine found the tank in a tunnel. Incredible precision and skills of a pilot. Let's see, a recording was made by a Mavic drone for which the Ukrainians also donated. Wait a minute, the Kakhovka HPP, that would be, yeah, sorry, whoops. For some reason, I thought Kakhovka and Enhedar were one and the same. So we're moving that down here, and now here's the clip. I bet you there's music. I was right. We're muting it. But we can see a little explosion over there on the other side, and we see a box. We're looking at a box. We can now see the drone flying. It appears to have something on the front of it. I don't know if that's like a bomb or something. I don't really know. It was flying around pretty casually. It's a casual day for this drone. You see right there a little entrance to a building, and oh, it's flying in. It's going in hot. Oh, oh, he got it.
Oh, wow.
That was what it did. It had a bomb on a stick on a bomb. You see the smoke still coming up from the explosion. And that drone did an incredibly good job. I'm surprised it just said, Dale, sanity check for me. It's like, hopefully you're not going insane. We see a Russian soldier running around down there into the tunnel. He's like, oh, блядь, not my tank. Oh, блядь. Oh, no, insurance won't cover this. And so now they send in a second one. Another bomb on a stick will do the trick. And this video cannot be played anymore. It's just too much for y'all to handle. Too much. Literally, they cut it off right in the middle of us running it. So, sorry about that, but still, hey, what can we do about it? They got the bomb on the stick, and they got the tank too. We're now moving on into the next clip from the Kherson area, where we saw the Ukrainians returning on a boat from a successful raid on the other side of the Dnieper River, or the Dnipro River. So let me unmute that, and here we go. You see their objective burning in the background as they scoot on back across the Riva. What was that laugh at the end? He's like, really? It sounded like Squidward. Didn't even sound like his voice, but I guess all of us have that moment here and there. But with that, that's the end of that little clip. And once again, it's great to see that the Ukrainians were able to complete some impressive objectives on the other side of the Dnieper River, largely without even being touched. We're now moving on out of the Kherson area and out of the front lines and back all the way up to Kiev, because now it's time for us to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 360 of the war. And so without further ado, here's the speech from the one, the only President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Короткий звіт про цей день. З візитом у Київ був Марк Рютте, прем'єр-міністр Нідерландів. Лідер, який дуже допомагає нам захищати свободу. Лідер держави, яка дуже допомагає нам захищати Україну і всю Європу. Нідерланди серед провідних партнерів України. Це проявляється і збройною підтримкою, і політичною, і юридичною. Сьогодні ми провели з Марком, як завжди, змістовні переговори. Буде більше зброї для наших воїнів, буде більше тиску на державу-терориста, буде більше можливостей відновити справедливість. Разом з Нідерландами ми працюємо над покаранням Росії за цю агресію і над компенсацією збитків, завданих війною. Є вже конкретне рішення розмістити в Гаазі реєстр збитків. Це перший вагомий елемент майбутнього компенсаційного механізму. Впевнений, досягнемо і інших потрібних рішень. Росія буде притягнута до повної відповідальності за все, що нею зроблено проти України і українців. Сьогодні мав честь представити наш народ, наших захисників, наших захисниць на відкритті Мюнхенської безпекової конференції. Це одне з найбільш вагомих міжнародних зібрань, і на цьогорічній конференції представлені значущі сили сучасного світу. Завдяки усім вам, українці і українки, які боронять нашу державу. Росії в Мюнхені немає. Ключовий меседж України на безпековій конференції очевидний. Ми маємо зробити все, щоб вже цього року забезпечити крах російської агресії. Це можливо, це потрібно, але це можливо, якщо Україна отримує ту зброю, що необхідна для цього. Тому наш дипломатичний марафон продовжується без перерви. Від мого візиту у Вашингтон в грудні вже створена танкова коаліція для України, вже знімається табу щодо постачання далекобійних ракет, вже є нові здобутки в посиленні нашої артилерії і вже світ почув, наскільки необхідним для загальносвітової безпеки є створення авіаційної коаліції для України. Говорив і сьогодні про це з прем'єр-міністром Рютте і протягом тижня з іншими лідерами. Продовжу ці перемовини наступного тижня. Продовжу консолідувати і підтримку для ініціатив нашої держави в Генасамблеї ООН. Наступного тижня представимо важливу резолюцію, і сьогодні я представив її ключовий сенс, зокрема лідерам і главам урядів держав Карибської співдружності. Україна завжди базує свою зовнішню політику на повазі до усіх учасників міжнародних відносин. Усі нації є рівними і заслуговують на незалежне життя, на мирну співпрацю з іншими народами. Такий наш принцип зустрічає розуміння у всіх частинах світу. І я дякую кожній державі, кожному народу, які підтримують українські зусилля по стабілізації міжнародних відносин. І найголовніше, звичайно, сьогодні, як і в будь-який інший день, я на постійному зв'язку з командувачами. Я провів нараду з представниками сектору оборони. Ми робимо все, щоб посилити наших воїнів на передовій, наших героїв, які надихають світ тим, як хоробро і стійко захищають свободу України, нашу землю, наші цінності. Я знову і знову відзначаю наших бійців, які боронять Донеччину і Луганщину. 54-та окрема механізована бригада, 95-та окрема десантно-штурмова бригада, 25-та окрема повітряна десантна бригада. Я дякую вам, воїни, я дякую вам усім, хто тримає наші позиції на фронті, хто знищує ворога і хто дає нам усім віру у перемогу України. Слава кожному і кожній, хто зараз в бою. Дякую усім, хто допомагає нашій державі. Слава Україні!
And with that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 360 of the war in Ukraine. And of course, that wraps up our news summary for the day, and that ushers in the question segment for the rest of the night. Before we move on to that question segment, though, I thank everyone who was watching the news segment for enjoying tonight's news. If y'all did, make sure to hit the like button, because right now we're in the year 1685, which means that we're getting on towards the era of early colonization here in the United States of America, and I believe the Delaware colony will be coming up soon. If y'all get the gist, I'm joking about like the likes being a year in history, but anyways, moving on from that, I thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, and also make sure to comment, because that helps out a good bit as well, and helps this Lee Spring Army to continue to grow and to continue to spread our efforts and our culture across all of YouTube and eventually become the dominant one. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching the news, and with that, Matthew is going to guide us through our next upcoming polls, because those polls have got some juice in them. Call them nitrous, because that shit that'd be juicy. But anyways, what do we got, man?
Call them out. Call them out.
Call them out. So what do we got, man?
All right.
No, let's see. That's clause 13, rule 1. Cuss them out. But with that, let's hear the polls.
All right. So for our final question segment, we have 4 more polls to address, and maybe there might be one more I add to it, but who knows? The first one says, today Putin met with a reluctant Lukashenko to discuss quote-unquote military cooperation. What are your thoughts? 75% said Putin is trying to pressure Belarus, 4% said unsure, 16% said Lukashenko is hesitant, and 6% said Belarus will cooperate 100%. Now, sadly, I can't put a fifth option, but I would say Putin is pressuring them, and also Lukashenko is visibly hesitant. I think that he does not want to get involved in this, from what I gather. What was that?
Oh no! I just saw Macy's guy in the chat say, "Enforce your cousin." He put like a giant eye emoji. I'm sorry,
Yes.
that slipped. Usually we never really cuss on stream ever, and it's very light. Sorry about that. That slipped because apparently I'm getting fatigued. I'm making an excuse. Sorry, I cussed. We won't do that again. But with that, let me make sure you get on through the rest of that poll, Matthew.
But I was just going to say that I think Lukashenko is very hesitant, and I think Putin is trying to, well, I can't say that, but he's trying to pressure him. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree. I do believe he's trying to pressure Lukashenko. However, it doesn't matter how much he does pressure Lukashenko, because both of them probably understand the very fragile situation that Belarus is in, is that if they actually get involved in this war, the Belarusians will most likely go through some kind of a coup or a civil war or something similar within their country, and that will tie up even more Russian resources and effort to try and quell that, instead of just allowing the Belarusians to stay out of the war but supporting Russia. So while he is trying to pressure Lukashenko, I don't think he is truly trying to pressure him to get involved in the war due to the implications. So that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
I wonder what were the odds that Putin subtly threatened him and during that meeting today? Probably pretty high would be my guess, because I have a feeling that Lukashenko's walking a fine line between falling out of a window and complying.
Wouldn't that be funny if Lukashenko fell out of a window? It's like, now he's just killing leaders of foreign countries. You know, like that
I wouldn't be shocked.
No,
like
I
that wouldn't
be
be shocking.
I wouldn't be shocked, but that would end up being hilarious. It's like anyone in Putin's circle, even if you're the leader of another country that's just kind of allied with him, you too could end up getting killed by the maniac. Like, that would be the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants a meeting with Putin at this point. But anyways, our second poll says satellite imagery reveals that North Korea and Russia have greatly increased trade. What are your thoughts? The 50% said North Korea has stuff to trade, 26% said I'm not concerned at all. 15% said this will defeat NATO's sanctions, and 10% said unsure. And I can assure you this will definitely not defeat the purpose of the sanctions, because I'm with the 50%. I didn't even know North Korea had anything to trade, because I believe their entire population is starving except for the elites in Pyongyang. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I didn't even know there was a patriotic martyrs cemetery out here. Like, I was like, what the hell? And it looks like it's like surrounded by re-education camps. So kind of odd. But moving on from that, North Korea is the saddest country on earth and probably one of the worst places to live. I actually found out, Matthew, where they declined, because you remember back in the day, and I'm always saying this, North Korea used to be the better Korea in between the two up until about the 80s and the 90s.
You think you thought North Korea was better?
No. Like, statistically, they were better, and it was known around the world. And even back in the day, all the way up until about the late 80s and early 90s, North Korea was usually used in debates as to how socialism can create a perfect country, because it was fairly well off all the way up until the late 80s and 90s. You know what happened that screwed them over?
What happened?
So the North Koreans in the 80s were trying to find a way to produce more food for the Koreans, and they decided that the best thing to do was to begin a goat breeding program to breed more goats, and through that they could get more goat milk, goat meat, and they could start feeding more people in North Korea and have abundance of food. So they tripled the goat population over a very small number of years, and these goats roamed around the mountains of North Korea and practically ate every single bit of vegetation that was holding down the soil on these mountains. And so when the monsoons came over the next following years, like about the next 2 to 3 years, they would sweep off all the soil off of the mountains that now had nothing holding it down. All of that pretty much flooding, I guess you could say like landslides pretty much, just slushy landslides, would flow on down into the few bits of agricultural land there were in North Korea, screwing them over, destroying all the crop yields, and through them trying to create more food for North Koreans to eat, they ended up destroying all of the food that the North Koreans could have possibly ever eaten, which is what created the famines of the 90s, and also led the North Koreans into just a spiral of decline that they're still in to this day. So that is actually kind of a funny story, you know, to think about it. Like, goats are literally the cause of North Korean economic collapse. Before then, they were actually kind of doing a little okay, but now they're not doing well at all. Something like 10% of their population died in those famines in the 90s, from what we can estimate.
I just don't understand how it's possible because the Kims are expert farmers.
Well, dude, have you seen Kim Jong-un? I mean, like, he has to be an expert farmer. He's eating the entire farm. You know, he needs to calm down. If he eats any more, he won't be able to make it into most Korean houses because the doorways are going to be too narrow for him. But also, I like when he got like the plastic surgery or whatever. He had like some fat reduction surgery, and he came back out, and everyone was like, "What the hell?" You know, like right
rumor
here.
has it he puts like car wax on his face everywhere.
Yeah, he's got some of that armor all on the dash. Oh man!
Why does his face look like that? He looks like he's in a wax museum.
Madame Tussauds, call him Madame Tussauds. One of their wax figures is coming to life and is living in North Korea. Also,
that kid on the right looks like they're like desperate. Like goodness.
This kid right here, no expression in his face, nothing at all. Like he could care less. What's this guy doing back here though? What's that face?
Who knows?
No one around him looks like they're happy at all. Everyone's filled with dread. Like everyone looks scared as hell up here. But moving on from that, the North Koreans, like everyone said in the poll, the North Koreans have practically nothing to trade. Like their economy hardly exists based off of what we know. And you can even see that if they are able to produce anything, it's in a very small area. Because if you look at North Korea at night, most of the country doesn't even have electricity. So how can they produce massive amounts of goods when they don't even have any factories, a large amount of factories that have been electrified that could produce these goods? Also, here's a better map showing the Koreas at night. This is the amount of light observed from space at night. You can see that South Korea is pretty bright. North Korea, beyond a few small exceptions, is completely dark. No electricity whatsoever. And so I would really doubt that the trade, like they're probably saying trade has increased exponentially based off of like the usual North Korean trade of like 4 cartons of eggs a month, and now it's gone up to 12 cartons of eggs a month from the North Koreans. That's probably what they call an exponential growth. But I would have to say it's not anything big because they can't even electrify most of their country. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And what are you laughing at, Matty? I hear you like holding back a laugh. What is?
I see all the jokes about Kim about his weight.
Let's see. I'm trying to read some of them.
Those kids are probably Kim's lunch, said Hoodoo, Texas.
Oh, oh goodness. That's probably true too. Oh man, you know cannibalism.
Somebody said the dude in the background had a gun on the kid. It could be because that dude was looking really suspicious back there.
They wouldn't shoot the kid in public. You know, the communists, like the North Koreans. Well, they're not really communists. They're more like monarchists, honestly, because the Kim dynasty is literally pretty much a monarchy that has absolute authority. It's like an absolutist monarchy, honestly, with like a veil of socialism on it. But anyways, moving on from that, I would doubt that they would shoot him in public because, you know, communists like the Chinese, they always just drag people off and then they disappear. That's usually what they do.
True.
Also, Jonathan said they are producing iced though. What is ice? Like icing on a cake? Like what is that?
Have you seen the video, like the Top Gun style, like propaganda video that Kim was in with his hair like slicked back with the hair gel and everything?
No, I haven't. Is that on YouTube?
Oh, it is. It's so cringy. He tried to do like Michael Bay style propaganda film. It was horrible.
Top Gun. Let me see here. Is this?
There he is, the second one. Yeah. Oh man,
dude, that zipper's about to break. That zipper's about to break. Why the hell is he dressed up like Gangnam Style? Also, I think we're gonna have to mute this because I don't think the music is actually theirs. I think it's copyright. And look at this! Look at this guy! Look at this guy! They're talking about. Oh, you know, the great socialism. Everyone's equal. This man whips out a freaking Rolex. Look at that! It's a gold Rolex.
I don't know if that's a Rolex.
It's probably a Bolex. But what the hell are they looking at? Oh my god! What the hell was that edit?
Oh,
dude! Wait! He gulped like he's scared. He went. Oh.
Man, Kim should have had a career in Hollywood.
Oh man, this is tough.
He pointed at the rocket.
Wait a minute, it's the popo, it's the popo. Oh look, a checkerboard. The pawn to E3. That's what they're going to be playing on the missile as it launches. Let's see, we see them zooming out on the rocket. The dramatized propaganda footage shows officials counting down from 10.
Oh, you got to hear that audio. Unmute it.
Wait, I hope it's real. Like, wait, yeah, you can hear. Wait, let's go back.
Did he just say bonsai?
No, he didn't. Look at that old-ass control board. Look at the steel that they made that out of. It's imperfect. It's like sand iron. Look at that.
Oh, my God.
Oh. There goes the checkerboard.
Oh, it actually took off. It's that, like Christian Crew said, the Hwasong 16.
It's the croissant. But anyways, I didn't even know about that, Matthew. I thank you for sharing that gem with all of us, because that was something.
Oh, no problem.
That was something. Do you know where they actually make all of their nuclear material for their missiles? You know, because everyone's always like, where the hell did they get the nuclear material from? Do you know where they get it from?
What, Pyongyang?
No, they get it from this little town called Pyeongsan, and let me find it real quick. It's just south of Pyongyang. It's near a river. There it is, Pyeongsan. If you go down here and you take a look at this building, you can actually see that it's called the uranium ore concentration plant. So, you know, a fairly good giveaway. And on top of that, you can see all the radioactive sludge that they just pump into these lakes and the mountains up here, and also the clear radioactive spillage that's being made by this conveyor belt over the river that's also seeping into it. And not only that, this river flows directly into South Korea, right outside of Seoul. So they're just pumping radioactive waste down this river and pretty much into, like, the Seoul basin, pretty much. Oh,
I'm sure they love to do that.
Yeah, and also what's wild is that they make a whole lot of coal. And so the way they make this radioactive material is that they burn this coal and they take the elements that are left over, and some of it's uranium, and they keep on enriching that uranium and burning it until they get refined uranium. And that's how they're making their nuclear weapons, is here at this little concentration plant in Pyeongsan.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, kind of wild, and also explains where they're getting it, because everyone for like years was like, where the hell are they getting this stuff? You know, even the U.S. government was like, we're not seeing where they're buying uranium from, so how are they getting this crap? They're just burning an excessive amount of coal to get a very small amount of uranium for these weapons. And also you can see a lot of the coal that's just been thrown around all over the place, like the coal here, the coal there, the radioactive yellow sludge going into the lake. Like, this is
I'm sure Kim Jong-un doesn't drink the tap water. He's probably drinking Fiji or something.
Dude, this is like the most ghetto way to make uranium I've ever seen. Like, this is just backwards as hell. No one makes uranium this way. Most people mine it and then refine it from there. They're literally just burning coal until they get uranium. But anyways, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well, because I don't really feel like they're going to be trading much. And also, there's a whole roast on Korea. Now we'll have the quote-unquote, Matthew, like the Vice people did on Vice News, the guys from the embassy show up and ask where we are somewhere. You know, like...
And there is no embassy.
Yeah, and there is no embassy. That'll probably be happening in the future. But anyways, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our last poll says, do you believe that Moldova may be at risk of a Russian coup plot or military action? 72% said Russia is eyeing Moldova, 8% said unsure, 9% said maybe a coup could happen, and 11% said no, Moldova will be fine. And I have to say, it does seem like Russia is eyeing Moldova. I doubt they would take military action against it, but they would probably likely sponsor a coup. But Enforcer, what say you? Forcer?
I would say it would seem likely that they may be able to stage a coup, but they do have 6,500 professional soldiers and 2,000 conscripts in their military at any given moment, so they have an armed force of about 8,500 guys. That's not that big, but how big is Transnistria's military? Transnistria military. Let's see if we can get any information on that. Armed forces of Transnistria. So how big is their military? Actually, they have a force that is comparable to the Moldovans inside of this fake country. And also, look, there's the president of Transnistria. Vadim Krasnoselski. He
Got
like
the little sickle and hammer in the little emblem.
Yeah, they're like LARPing as communists here. They want to pretend like the Soviet Union still exists, and some of them actually believe that it still exists, which is kind of a little stupid. But anyways, oh look, there's their parade. Ew, ew, ew! This stuff is like from the '60s. Get out of here! Like, look at that. That's a concourse. Dang.
That's nasty.
That's nasty. It really is. But yeah, I think they may be able to pull it off considering how small Moldova's military is. It's literally the same size as the Transnistrian military is. But what kind of equipment do they have? That will be the big difference here. So, armored fighting vehicles, they have the exact same stuff that the Transnistrians have. Literally the same. Like this little concourse and the Sturms, the same. So, yikes, that's actually kind of scary. Wait a minute, they have some Piranha 3Hs from the Swiss. That's cool.
Oh, I never heard of piranhas.
Yeah, you know, they're fish, Matthew. They eat people.
Oh, yeah. It is in the water after all. This is that big old piranha.
Yeah, that's that big old piranha. That's like baby shark. Baby shark. But anyways, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. It may actually be possible, but I have a feeling that will be somewhat difficult to do because foreign support could come in immediately, and there's not really a lot the Russians can do to reinforce any forces there if they attempt a coup. So with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was our last poll, but I might be putting another one up because I have a few more in the spreadsheet that I could use. But anyways, we're moving on to our Super Chat questions, and up first, we have a 50 from Andre Mogason. Very generous, and thank you, Andre. He says, would be interesting to check the support that Germany provided so far to Ukraine. If you search, Bundesregierung military support, first website it should be. It has English as well. I think we can expect something nice this spring.
Bundeswehr,
Let me go ahead and just like copy and paste this to you because it's a long spelling. There. Check your DMs.
Check your DMs. Let's see here. Let me check my DMs. Let's see here. Wow, damn. Yeah. Bundesregierung. That's it. Bundesregierung. Here we go. I think that's it. So we'll put that in. And then we'll put in military support. German words are really, really hard sometimes. They get really long. So, military support for Ukraine, the federal government. Because, believe it or not, Germany has a federal government. Germany provides... No! No! Germany provides support for Ukraine by supplying equipment and weapons. These come from the supplies of the federal armed forces and from deliveries from industry finance from the federal government's fund for security capacity building. An overview. So, let's see. Delivered military support to Ukraine. Changes compared to the previous week in bold. 26 load handling trucks, 15 tons. Before, they were 8. 32 frequency range extensions for anti-drone devices. Before, 20. 20 trucks. Before, 13. 20 mobile antenna mast systems. Before, 16. Well, let's see. Where are the tanks? Where are the tanks? I want to know if it's the tanks are. Scheiße. Scheißkopf. But let's see here. Oh, look. Military support to Ukraine in planning and execution. Due to security concerns, the federal government abstains from providing details on transportation modalities and dates until after handover. 14 Leopard 2 A6 main battle tanks with ammunition. So it appears that the number has not been reduced right now, according to the federal government of Germany. It appears that there will still be 14 Leopard 2 A6s that will be delivered to the Ukrainians, along with 40 Martyrs. And I believe the Martyrs are already there, but I'm not really certain on that. And Patriots. So good to know that those will eventually make it to Ukraine, and the number has not changed for now. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, helping this channel to keep on running, and also getting us here so we can get to the bottom of this. And it appears that 14 Leopards are still being provided at this moment, and the news that they were backing out and providing less may have been misinformation here or there to try and cause a stir. Not saying that the people who brought that up on stream were spreading information, but the people y'all read that from that were saying that may be spreading a misinformation, at least based off of what the federal government of Germany is saying. So, with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that comment fairly well. And thank you for helping the Leaf Spring Army and the Enforcer to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $20 super chat from Lorian Notsky, who is their first super chat, and thank you very much for the support. And Lorene says, love what you gentlemen are doing, and question, why haven't those NATO countries with MiGs and other Soviet aircraft sent them over to Ukraine since the F-16s are off the table?
That is an excellent question. An excellent question. I thank you so much, Lorene Notsky, for the first time supporting this channel and also asking a very good question. I thank you so much for enjoying us enough that you would support us and also ask us a question. Now, the Polish have a decent amount of MiG-29 aircraft. They operate these alongside the F-16s that they bought from the United States. We, for the large part, believe that the reason why they have not sent their MiG-29s to Ukraine is that everyone's afraid that sending aircraft of any kind, whether they be former Soviet aircraft or modern Western aircraft, will be crossing a red line with the Russians that they are seriously enforcing, and that's the reason why we never sent any of these over. The Polish are not the only country to have MiG-29s. I believe the Germans still have MiG-29s in storage from when East and West Germany were reunited. I'm not entirely sure about that. And I also know that I believe it's the Czechs also have MiG-29s, and the Romanians may have a few Soviet vintage aircraft, but they're not MiGs. Well, MiG-21s they have, but they don't have MiG-29s. So I think that it's largely for the diplomatic reasons, not because of an actual support reason, or they're not really wanting to help out Ukraine a lot. They're scared that there could be some everlasting repercussions and some serious escalations to the war if they were to supply these MiGs. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we answered that question fairly well. And oh look, Matthew, right here you can see 2 R-73s. Those are some fairly okay missiles. They're not great compared to what the US has, but they're fairly decent, at least in, the Soviet world.
They need some of those AIM-9X balloon poppers.
Yeah, let's look at an AIM-9X. AIM-9X. I bet you it looks like an AIM-9L. Yeah, it does. Well, hell, they're not even really sure. Oh, here's an AIM-9X. There's an AIM-9X right there. Dude, that thing kind of looks a little grimy.
Yeah, it looks like
the body of
like
it.
a nasty one.
The thing's nasty, man. They need to get it a shower or something. That is not an AIM-9X. It's not.
That's a dirty bomb.
No, it's not. Let's see. There's an AIM-9X. That's an AIM-9X. Whatever the hell this was, though, that's not. I don't even know why they're labeling it that. Someone's about to say, Enforcer acts like he knows everything. Yeah, well, I know that that's not an AIM-9X. But let's see. What else is something? An AMRAAM. Yeah, let me pull up one of those. AMRAAM missile. Armin. I put in Armin. That's why it wasn't AMRAAM. There we go. The AIM-120. This is one hell of a missile right here. This is the juice. And I think that we should send some of these to Ukraine with the Western aircraft and see how they handle those. Also, look at how many an F-18 can carry. It can carry 8 AMRAAMs. That's a little insane when you think about it, because one of these is fairly good and can largely take down an aircraft on its own. So you carry 8 of those, you can take down 8 aircraft in a single sortie, which would be kind of wild. And then you also have 2
How much are those? How much are those missiles like a piece? What is this, like millions of dollars on the bottom of this thing?
Let's see here. Let me go and type in an AIM-120 and let's find out the price of an AMRAAM. So the price. The unit cost is $1 million per AMRAAM.
Oh dear.
So that thing is
$1 million a shot.
8 million. Well, I mean, that's fairly good though, considering the aircraft costs like 50. Well, a Su-35 supposedly costs around 80 million US dollars. For $1 million, you can shoot down an $85 million jet.
I mean, I guess you can look at that as a bargain, but it's still $1 million.
Well, I mean, it's not that bad, especially in military terms, because the military money doesn't mean anything to the military. Come on, you and me know that.
Yes, Kirk Larson, we do need a coupon. That would be nice if Raytheon gave out coupons and stuff like that, and, buy one get one free.
A 20% off coupon on your next purchase of an AIM-120. Yeah, that'd be great. I wonder if we'll ever get a F-16, Matthew, like a Enforcer F-16. Wouldn't that be cool, Matthew? We saw an F-16 with a tail fin that had the Enforcer on it, like the Enforcer gas mask guy. That would be pretty cool. But anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well about why we haven't seen any of the Soviet legacy aircraft from the West be sent to Ukraine. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from the Psyops. He says, hi, Billy Mays here. We try a new product called Stick It. To use Stick It, you just write your political leaders and tell them to support Ukraine. If they don't, well, who knows where Stick It will end up. Texas can use it too.
And thank you for the support, Psyops, and also sharing that with us. It's good to hear that Stick It is a brand new product being supported by Billy Mays.
Apparently so.
Rest in peace, Billy Mays. But anyways,
oh yeah, he actually is a goner.
Yeah, he's a goner. You know, he was a goner years ago, like a decade ago.
Oh yeah, 2009 actually.
Over a decade ago. That's like 15 years ago. Crazy to think that I even remember him from my childhood, because almost every other commercial had him on it talking about something. Usually OxyClean though. Like, he was the OxyClean guy. Now we have Phil Swift here with Flex Tape or Flex Seal or Flex.
Yeah, and he's kind of like toning down in his recent commercials. He's not nearly like the way he was.
Dude, that's why he became famous. I don't even know why people lose track of that. That's the whole reason why he became popular, is because he used to be this crazy guy who would talk about Flex Seal and Flex Tape and stuff. Now he's not like that anymore. He's like, hi, I'm Phil Swift. Here is Flex Tape. He should be like, hi, I'm Phil Swift. We're going to saw this Russian in half and put him together with Flex Seal. Like, he should be like that still. You know, like, he's not like that anymore. And I'm kind of sad about that. But anyways, I thank you so much for the support, Psyops. And once again, I do highly encourage everyone to send a letter to your representatives or your senators. And I just want to let y'all know, if y'all cuss them out, they will respond much like we do. Like, when we ban y'all, they won't read the letter. They can't ban y'all from living in their district, but they will not read the letter. Or it won't get to them because their little, like, interns will not bring it to them. But make sure to write a very polite letter letting them get the point that you support Ukraine, they should support Ukraine, and they should continue to support Ukraine, and if they don't, you will not support their re-election. You will not vote for them, because that is a big deal to these people. If they don't get voted in, they lose their jobs, and a lot of these people do this as a career. So with that, thank you once again for the support, Psyops. Make sure to write to your officials, your government officials, and let them know to continue to support Ukraine. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support, Psyops, and helping this channel to keep on rolling.
All right, and the next one goes to Psyops once again, who puts in a 20 and says, by the way, Enforcer, you know I'm going to make you pick a winner for the A10 contest. You will deal with the Burt Armada for your blasphemy. Muha. And question for Mr. Corgi or the chat, I guess.
And, Matthew, should we get Mr. Corgi up?
No.
Oh. Sleep well, Mr. Word. But anyways, I thank you for the support, Psyops. I really do. And I thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. Sadly, we can't get Mr. Corgi up. He went to sleep 2 hours ago, little baby. He goes to sleep when this stream starts, actually. So, sadly, he's not awake when we're running this. But my little baby boy, he's out there in his little cage, sleeping away. It's not a little cage, actually. We made, like, condominiums for our Corgis because we want them to be luxuriously sleeping. So, you have, like, the cages for, like, a dog that's, like, 200 pounds, and we put 2 of them together for each one, both Sheba and Mr. Corgi. So they have like these suites. They actually go into them on their own in the daytime. They're that nice. And they usually don't, well, Sheba usually doesn't come out. Mr. Corgi likes to roam around, but Sheba just likes to sleep in there all day long. She's a very sleepy baby. But anyways, I do thank you so much for the support, Psyops. Sadly, we can't get him out, but we can still ask the question. So what is the question, Matthew? What is the question he wants answered from Monsieur Ward?
All right, so this question goes to, let's see here, Hoodoo Texas, who already got off for the night. But he said, do you think this will be the last European war?
No, never. There will be another European war. There will always be another war anywhere and everywhere. Even if the entire world was under one unitary government, there would still be wars going on in between separatists, revolutionaries. It will never end. I promise you that. And so this will not be the last European war we ever see. We'll probably see another one somewhere else. But you never know. But with that, I hope that does answer that question fairly well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much once again, Silas, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, Matthew, I saw someone actually made a flag in the flag competition section, which is actually about to close in exactly 45 minutes. So if you have not sent in a flag yet and you wanted to, you have 45 minutes to send in a flag where it will be considered for the competition. But I actually saw someone make a flag with Mr. Corgi on it, and it was really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Who was it?
I think it was Bobby Caralfa that made the flag, but it was a really cool little flag.
I'll have to take a look at it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, the little monsieur where he became famous. But with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support, Silas, and I hope we answered that live chat fairly well.
All right, and with that being said, we're on to our next one, which goes to SuperBunker9000, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "Welcome to the Lizard Nation, fellow lizard. I knew it from the start. JK, you guys rock, and thank you. And please take a live chat question, NAFO and LSA forever."
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for helping the channel to keep on running. Thank you for enjoying that we are, in fact, lizard people. Matthew and me do enjoy warm rocks on normal days, and we also like eating flies. I usually enjoy mine to be fruit flies, because I think they taste like Fruit Loops. But I still thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And you know something? I'll tell you all this. I realized that the whole thing... You know, I already knew that lizard people, that whole thing was outlandish before this happened, but it really showed me how outlandish it was when I got an email from someone threatening to kill me and Matthew way a long time ago. It was like 8 months ago, because they said we were lizard people, a part of like the New World Order and all that stuff. And then I realized how easy it is when psychotic people disagree with you for you to automatically become a literal reptilian creature, just in a matter of a few sentences. You know, I was like, that actually was eye-opening for me. I was like, that is wild. And I thought that was just crazy that someone would be that insane enough to threaten to kill you because they now imagine you to be a reptile. But anyways,
once he said lizard people, I knew he wouldn't stand a chance.
You know, I don't think he understands, but these lizards, they're not slimy. They throw hands. Lizards are pretty strong, but anyways, we will make sure to get a live chat too, and thank you so much for enjoying this channel and saying that we rock. You rock for helping this channel to keep on running, because it's through y'all's support that we're able to keep this thing going. There's no other way that we could support this channel and keep it going unless it was through viewer support, and we've deliberately made it that way for the entire time this channel has ever run, because I don't want y'all to be annoyed by ads. I don't want y'all to ever have to get back on the stream after it airs and you have to watch an ad to watch it. Everything is completely free with this channel. The only thing y'all have to do is watch and enjoy if you want, and if you enjoyed enough to support us, you even get to decide by how much. It could be $1, it could be like Donna Olson last night, $500, it could be anywhere in between, and we'd be more than appreciative for any support. That's the way we'll always run it, and if we can't support it that way, then we won't exist, because I will not compromise on principle. But still, thank y'all so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, and I hope we addressed that fairly well. And now, let's get a live chat.
All right, and the live chat question goes to Mr. E-Man. He says, how is Russia going to do anything to Moldova when they have their hands full with Ukraine?
That's a good question. I don't really think they can do anything with Moldova, because you also have to remember Transnistria is surrounded by Ukraine and also by Moldova. So how in the world did they fly an aircraft to resupply and support their troops there, or to reinforce them? And that is a very precarious position, and that most likely will lead to nothing really happening there. But once again, they are fairly matched in terms of their manpower on both sides, the Transnistrians and the Moldovans, so it could still be pulled off. But it'll really depend on them getting the upper hand and also inflicting some devastating blows within the opening days of the battle or the coup. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running and helping us to address a live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one's going to go to none other than Joseph M. Sika once again, who puts in a 20 and says, so Patton after World War II said we should have went all the way to Moscow. Now we know he was right. What do you guys think about that?
I think that that's fairly true. I think that he was kind of right in that context. And imagine, if we had gone all the way to Moscow after the Second World War and won that war, the world would have looked totally different. The Chinese would have never gotten any support, most likely, during the Chinese... Well, the Communist Chinese would have never gotten support through the Chinese Civil War. They would have collapsed. The the Korean War wouldn't have happened. The war in Vietnam would have never happened. Everything would have pretty much been like, although it would have been much bloodier to get to that point. Well, I don't know. Relatively, it would seem a lot bloodier, but really in context, it would probably be less bloody to get to that point. To have a world where none of that ever happened, and our society would be totally different, because the United States would have never gone through the horrors of Vietnam. We would have gone through the horrors of the American-Soviet War in Europe after the Second World War. I wonder how that would have changed things.
There's no telling.
There's no
we'll
telling.
Never know.
There's no telling. That was Matthew's philosophical answer. There's no telling, and I would have to agree. There's no telling. The options and the results would be limitless. But thank you so much once again for the support, Joseph. Once again, glad to have you back. And also, Matthew, I was trying to understand what he was saying earlier, but was he saying that he wasn't actually drunk that night?
I didn't see that part, but I think he was definitely drunk.
I think from what we could tell, it seemed as though you were soused. But I hope, once again, Joseph, that we did the right thing. I think you were okay with it because you're still supporting us tonight. But once again, I thank you so much once again for the support, helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that you always support us responsibly. And also, please, I just want to make this as a note, because Joseph, you've scared me now into this. Make sure that if y'all are ever getting a little too sauced on our stream, make sure not to send in a super chat. I'd rather y'all support us when y'all are sober and y'all are able to make sure to budget it, instead of not being sober and then doing.
Well, yeah, Joseph said he was sober.
He did?
Yeah, he just said it. He said, no, I was sober.
So you were faking it?
Oh, that's wild. Man.
Dude, if I had known that, I thought you were dog drunk, and that's why we were trying to protect you from yourself in what we thought was your drunken state, so that way you wouldn't regret that the next day. I didn't even know. I thank you though, Joseph, for the support. I'm sorry that we did that, because I didn't know that you were actually sober and you were just pretending to be drunk. So sorry about that. So on
Somebody said, "LOL, Cap."
Over the Cap, I call Cap. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. I didn't know that, and I'm sorry about that, Joseph. We completely misunderstood that, apparently. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support. And Paul McDonald said he was excellent at faking it. He was. He had all of us fooled. He had everyone in the live chat fooled. He had us fooled. I seriously thought he was sideways. That's what I thought he was. But we are on to the next one.
All right. And he says, Joseph said, when you guys said I was drunk, I just went with it. Oh my goodness. Well, anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from BC Skyman, who says, I have been to both Ukraine Orthodox and Russian churches. The Ukrainian churches still have normal worship services, and the Russian Orthodox Church I visited in St. Petersburg, you actually had to pay admission to go inside.
Are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me, BC. Wow. We thought well, I'm not going to say anything about that. That's crazy, though. You have to pay admission. That's insane. I've never heard of a church doing that. At least
how much was it?
Yeah, that's a good question. How much was it? Was it $1? It's have your sins relieved and have your soul saved for $1. It's cheaper than $5 footlong from Subway.
That's a bargain.
It's a bargain, bleed. So save your soul for $1, bleed. $1. But still, I thank you for the support, BC Skyman, and sharing that with us. I didn't know the Russian Orthodox Church was that messed up that they would make you pay to participate in a service. That's wild. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for the support, and thank you for sharing with us the twisted reality of the Russian Orthodox Church.
Did you see that comment from Sitting and Thinking?
Let me see here. Let me find it. Sitting and Thinking. I don't see it. Let me keep on scrolling up. Is it on up in the chat?
It's fresh. It just went through.
Oh, I have top chat on. 1 second. Let me switch to live chat.
Oh man,
dang it! You've
been cutting out most of them.
Let's see here. Sitting and Thinking. Got it. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Is he saying that about us or the church?
No, the church, not us.
I was about to be like, no, we're not doing that. But the church, they might be doing that. And then Marichka said, this is not the worst thing that the quote-unquote church does. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all. But with that, we are on to Chip Kerwants. It sounds like Alabama. Why do y'all gotta take shots at Alabama? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Roll Tide.
You know, every once in a while, Matthew and me roam upon an enclave of haters that have been exiled. And then, funnily enough, that's usually like their hugest thing to say is, they're Alabamian. What do you expect? And like, it's like, huh, all right. It's like, still doesn't negate the fact that y'all are banned, but all right. So with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and we actually have a poll that put up, which has been neglected slightly. The question is, the U.S. threatens to take action if U.S. companies keep evading Russian sanctions. Thoughts? It looks like 70% said, great, enforce those sanctions. 14% said it's political posturing. 4% said unsure. And 13% said companies are dodging sanctions, ? And I'm kind of with the 13%. I want to know which companies are dodging the sanctions, because if they're doing it and the U.S. isn't taking action, that seems like a dereliction of duty to me. Why are we just threatening it? Why aren't we actually taking action? But Enforcer, what say you?
The fact is, that's great to hear, but why hasn't that happened sooner? It's been an entire year since those sanctions came into effect, almost in like early March. Why in the world are we now threatening that? We should have been threatening that way back at the beginning when we saw that some companies were skirting around, and we should have told them, you better stop now or there will be serious consequences within weeks.
Yeah, it's like they're literally like threatening to enforce the law. It's like, no, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's like
it's not a threat.
That's like sitting there and letting illegal moonshining happen right in front of your faces for a year, and then go, all right, fellas, we're about to close down that steel if you don't stop. It's like, it should have been stopped as soon as you saw it, you know? But anyways, with that, I hope we address that fairly well. That's pretty wild, but with that, we're on to the next one.
In person, I say let them run the still. Like that little still out in the woods isn't going to hurt anybody.
Nah. And anyways, if they're doing that for their own consumption, who is anyone to stop them? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
As
long as they aren't selling to anybody, the law won't get involved. You hear me?
It ain't illegal till you get caught.
Now everyone's about to say, "Oh, that's a real Alabama thing. They're promoting crime." Listen.
No, I don't think anybody's gonna say that.
No, well, I'm sure someone will say it. But listen, y'all. I got to say this: as long as you aren't harming anyone else in whatever you're doing, and you're doing it on your own land or on your own property, you ought to be able to do it. That's my opinion. I don't know why in the world anyone would sit there and go, oh, they're making moonshine for themselves in their bathtub. We got to stop that right now. It's like, why? It's like they're doing it in their own property. They're not doing it.
The government just wants their cut. That's all. That's the whole reason they do it. They want their taxes.
You know, especially in Alabama, they're gonna thwack your butt real good with a reed if you're not buying it from ABC Beverages. But anyways, thwack. About that, we're on to the next one.
But up next, we have a $20 super chat from Marion Deemert, who says, you guys rock. And thank you, Marion.
And thank you, Marion. That's very nice of you. And I thank you for saying we rock, because we're actually Stones. I was fake laughing. That was actually a terrible punchline. But still, I thank you so much for the support, Marion, and saying we rock. It's very kind of you, and we take that with great pride. So thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
I saw some folks saying they're voting crime.
Yeah, I thought some people would be saying that. And then Wolfric the Augur said, "Alcoholic hillbillies. We don't even drink. But if people do, that's their own thing, you know. But anyways, wait, Mark Rodetta said, share the moonshine. There have been no complaints. But it's like, I don't know about that. Like, it's kind of going against what I'm saying. As long as they're doing it for themselves, it ought to be no problem. But with that, we're on to the next one.
Well, psyops, come on now. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Andre Mogasan once again, who says, I hope the leaders in the West are also thinking about the aftermath for Russians after the war. It's going to be hard to prevent another Versailles-style treaty with all the reputation they achieved with this war.
And I thank you for the support. I think it will be easy to avoid a Versailles treaty because it won't be an unconditional surrender from the Russians. It'll be negotiated peace in between the two. But I do see where you're coming from, and they definitely have garnered a terrible reputation through the course of this war for what they've done to the Ukrainians in occupied territory, and also what they've done to the Ukrainians inside of Ukraine. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for helping this channel to keep running.
All right. And the next one goes to Epic Trains Canada, who puts in a 15 and says in English, I don't know if they meant to like be funny and say English and they put English, but it says, it says in English, MB, there is a row of grain elevators that are known for being some of the last ones left from the pioneer days. The CP rail line was removed in 1997, but the elevators were saved and are now a museum. Slava Ukraine.
Matthew, Inglis is a town.
English?
It's a town, Matthew. It's a town in Manitoba. He said, I don't. He said English like you're Spanish. He said,
Habla English?
You said, in English, New York. Let me get down here and try and find them. There's a row of grain elevators that are known for being some of the last ones left from the pioneer days. Let's see if I can find. There's the grain elevators, the National Historic Site. Oh, cool! I've seen so many pictures of grain elevators like these. That is so cool.
Wow.
Those things are ancient. Probably from like the 1870s if I had to take a shot at it.
It says UGG, United Grain
1922?
something.
These were made in 1922? No way. No way. Let's see. This company owned 48 country. Yeah, they were made in 1922. Still, these things are amazingly cool, though, and really well preserved. It looks like this town really puts a lot of stock into these little elevators. And I feel
like I've seen this on a movie somewhere.
I feel like
this
I have.
This shot looks familiar.
You know, like, this would be a perfect thing for, like, a movie set based on, like, an industrial... Well, not really an industrial, but, like, a rural area. Like, get some old trucks from the 30s and 40s around these things and, like, rent a steam locomotive and have it out there on the track. Well, I don't even know if this thing's connected to a network. It looks like it... It isn't. It's not. But still, this is such a cool little thing. What does this town look like, though? So there's the grain elevators over there. Wow, this is a really neat little town. It looks like a... I don't really know how to describe it. Like a extremely manicured, like, 1950s suburb with the little grain elevators out there. All in all, really cool town, I'm not going to lie. And the elevators were saved and are now a museum. What does the inside of these things look like? Because we have some museums around here based out of old industrial buildings like this. I just wonder what the inside of these buildings look like, because there's not any pictures of them that are easy to see. Oh, here's a wagon. Pretty cool. There's the snow.
Looks real English.
English, senor. English, yes, see. Look at this. Oh, look at steam engine.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Man, these are so neat. I'm a huge sucker for old industrial stuff. I think it's really cool. If you want to see something that's not as well preserved, but is kind of industrial in its way, more so urban industrial instead of rural industrial, is actually in Birmingham. We have this giant, ugly eyesore because it's hardly maintained as a park anymore. And I know you know what I'm talking about, Matthew, before we even get to it. The Sloss Furnace.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Not really. It's cool, but it's also poorly maintained, and it looks like a pile of junk now. But it does have a really interesting history. It was the largest steel furnace in the state of Alabama for a good while, and it was one of the reasons why Birmingham was known as like the Pittsburgh of the South for its industrial output. One thing that is interesting, though, is they used a lot of prison labor. Which is something that is a little bit of a dark part of its past, and a lot of those prison laborers would end up dying in these furnaces by work accidents. But still, it is a very interesting part of, I guess you could say, Birmingham's industrial history. But sadly, they've allowed it to go into a great state of disrepair. Like, the entire thing is not in good shape at all. They do some events here and there at it, but still, it's pretty neat for its history alone.
It also seems like it's pretty cool. It just seems like Birmingham kind of overhypes it because it's like the only thing that's really like an attraction downtown. So they kind of like blow it out of proportion.
Yeah, they way overdo it, and then like the drive to it's really weird because it's still in the middle of an industrial area. So there's nothing like commercial about this or neat. Like, you drive through this really like quiet industrial area to get to it. But still, I guess I don't know. I guess it's neat in its own way. It's just that it's And so K-Hunt said, this place looks haunted AF. You wouldn't believe it, but they actually run like this haunted house thing every October, the entire month there, because it is like, you know, it's like always said to be haunted as hell because of how many people died working in that furnace. But yeah, it looks pretty scary. And then JJ said, your mom is haunted AF. It's like, dang, we got a roast session going on down there. But still.
That might be a bot, actually.
JJ's been around for a while.
No, it's a different one.
Oh yeah, you're right. It has a different profile picture. But anyways, oh dang!
I don't know what's going on with that.
Fixes is firing back. He's oh no. But anyways, I thank you so much for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. Thank you for sharing those grain elevators. Those were incredibly cool and a really neat little bit of history, considering you are one of our in-house train spotters, and that is a pretty neat little hobby to have. I feel like us in America. Well, I'm not a train spotter, but I feel like train spotters in America are way at a disadvantage compared to any train spotters anywhere else around the world, because here in America it's just freight exclusively for the most part. In other parts of the world you get all kinds of neat stuff, and it's really high density too. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for support and sharing that neat little tidbit with us.
Yes, indeed. And also, for those asking, we have about, let's see here, about 20 super chats left, so don't worry if yours hasn't been called out yet. It is likely coming up next. But the next one we have is from Junebug72, who puts in a 10 and says, good evening. This one is to help your algorithm and to give a question to our live chat in Slava, Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and also helping us out in the algorithms. I don't know if super chats do help us out in the algorithms. I think they don't, but comments do help. Like if y'all blow up the live chat or something constantly, that does help. It also makes Matthew's job incredibly difficult at the same time, so it's kind of like a trade-off. And also if you'll comment on older videos and streams comment sections, that also helps this channel to in the algorithms as well. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Junebug, and always being here and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, we will make sure to grab a live chat. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And the live chat question goes to Force5, who says, whose artillery will run out of ammo first?
Most likely the Russians, because the Ukrainians are converting over to Western NATO equipment, and so NATO is largely supplying them with all of their artillery munitions, and we're keeping up a constant supply of that. The Russians, however, are having a little bit of a hard time keeping up with the amount of artillery shells they're using, so they are almost already at a rate of running out of ammunition. They're just trying to keep up. So I feel like they would be the first to run out, although they are the larger country of the two. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And thank you once again, Junebug72, for supporting this channel and also sponsoring a live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And the next one goes to John Webster, who puts in a 10. And he says, for the... oh, goodness. He says, for the Five Boys Fund, seriously, no. I about died from the laughter the other day. My customers probably thought I had a mental problem. Take a live chat question, please, in Slava, Ukraine.
Well, I thank you for the support. It's okay to have a mental problem here and there. Just make sure not to file that on your... well, I can't say that. But anyways, I do thank you so much for the support. It's good to hear you got a good laugh out of the Five Boys thing. That was hilarious, Mr. Senator. What is the Five Boys? It starts like, ringing the collar with your finger. Well, I mean, it was just a little thing. It was a business opportunity. But still, I thank you so much for enjoying that, getting a good laugh out of it. And also, thank you so much once again for the support. And we'll make sure to get a live chat, too.
And also, that must have been funny, John, just break out in laughter in the middle of the store. The customer was like, I think the shop owner is off his rocker or something. But anyways, also, before we get to that live chat question, Pack Rat, I am sorry to hear that, man. Looks like he's been admitted to the hospital. So get better soon.
Yeah, and I hope that you do get better, Pack Rat, because you were just in the hospital, I believe, for having a mild heart attack, if I remember correctly, if I'm right, Matthew.
I believe that was correct.
And now you're in it again because your Crohn's medicine is messing with you. I hope that you do get better. I hope that's no big deal and you just get out of it tonight. But man, I hate that. So get well better soon, Pack Rat. And I hope that everyone in the live chat also wishes for him to get better, because we always hate to hear that folks who watch our stream are in bad shape. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And take care, Pack Rat.
Yes, indeed. And the live chat question we have there is from Sitting and Thinking, who says, has the Wagner Group been designated as a terrorist organization as it is an arm of the Russian military?
I believe it has. I believe the United States also deemed them a terrorist organization a while back, from what I know. So I believe the answer to that is actually yes. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from TR, who says, pull one from the chat mat and also make it a good one. All right.
Dang.
Well, thank you very much for the support, and I'll make sure this one is the best one you've ever seen. So let me skim through here. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's see. All right, so we have one from Colin Walker, who says, can we see the clip of the Russian soldier who poked the crashed Ukrainian kamikaze drone with a stick and it blew up in his face, please? Did you see this clip?
Yes, I did. I saw it.
Voice crack gone wild.
Oh, man. Let me see if I can find it. Russian hits drone.
You better be happy with that one, man. That was the best one.
With a stick. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. It's literally type in Russian hits kamikaze drone with a stick and it finds it.
Hello everyone, an extremely short video.
I'm gonna mute that. But when you see the Russian crawling up towards the drone, when you see its camera still on, he whips out the stick, the old stick, and he smacks it and it blows up. Like
stupid.
Like watch, like poof, you can see the little smoke out there from it blowing up from him hitting it with the stick. And he was down and out for the count after that. And then you can see a whole bunch of those drones right there.
They have a whole fleet of FPV drones. Those are nice.
Wow.
Oh, they even have like that fat shark antenna on the top of each one of them too.
Fat shark OB shark But man, they got 1 million of these. Dude,
Damn.
this is like a hoarder's house. But
a harder.
Oh, the horror. But still, they got like FPV drones only. I'm messing up all my English tonight. Sorry, everyone. I'm about to have to go back. I'm about to have to go back to speaking English, senor. But look, here he goes again. He's about to smack the thing with a stick. What an idiot.
What was he thinking?
Like
he was gonna like flip it over and take it?
Oh no, I think he was trying that old demining trick that the Ukrainians would do, like where they smack stuff with a stick and it would blow up. But I don't think this goofball understood that the charge was literally pointing right in his face and it just blew up right on him. So with that,
I think he was trying to steal it to go pawn it.
I think he was trying to strip the copper out of it.
Something was going to happen. He was trying to get some money from that drone.
He was trying to steal that thing from some cash. He was about to go back to the pawn shop in Russia and go, 30 rubles. Take it or leave it.
I guess you could say he fumbled the bag on that one.
He did more than fumble the bag, man. He blew it up. But with that, we're on to the next. I hope that addresses the live chat fairly well. And thank you so much once again for support. I hope that was a good one. I hope that got everyone laughing. So also, Paula, yes, he did die. That thing blew up right in his face. I doubt that he lived. So with that, we are on to the next one. And then Paula McDonald said, but did you die? No, I'm still here. So with that, we're on to the next one.
So the next one goes to Christina Law, who puts in a 10 and says, this is a very strange super chat. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. And she says it again. And she says, LOL. Recall is on me and live chat question, please.
What the hell are we supposed to be activated like that? Is that like something for like the Mandarin candidate or something like that? It's like,
the Mandarin.
The
Mandarin candidate.
Like, I don't know what his name was. 1 second. I'm about to pull up something, though. I think some people will know.
You are a candidate for the Mandarin. Here's your orange.
Mr. Dalliard, we've been activated. Let me go find that real quick and play the one snippet. Oh, man. I don't think I can find it. Dang it. Never mind. I'll forget about it. But anyways, Mr. Dalliard, we've been activated. But still, thank you for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we will make sure to get one from the live chat, too. And so with that, what do we got?
All right. So, the one from the live chat is going to go to Aaron Lowe, who says, what are we going to do about Russia after they are pushed out of Ukraine?
Well, what we're going to do with Russia is we're going to take our weights, we're going to spread them out, and we're going to pump iron for 3 days. In reality, what we're probably going to do is probably try and broker a peace at that point in between the two. The Russians will be heavily economically damaged. The question will be whether we keep the sanctions on them or not. That's really the only thing we can do to them. And I have a feeling at this point we probably will keep the sanctions on them. Do you think that we would or wouldn't keep the sanctions on them, Matthew? Because I'm fairly certain, in my opinion, that we probably would at this point.
Oh yeah, we would definitely keep the sanctions on Russia, and they would still be cut off just like they are now. So there's no recovery for Russia, even after the war's over, if they survive, until Putin and his government's out of power.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like it's done really any economic damage to anyone around the world to sanction them as heavily as we have. So I think that everyone will just continue on the sanctions because there's really no benefit in lifting the sanctions. So I would bank on the sanctions being kept even after the war. So I feel like that's most likely what's going to happen when they finally get pushed out of Ukraine. And so with that, I hope that addresses the live chat. And I thank you so much once again for support and sponsoring that live chat too, Christina Law. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and let me reorganize the spreadsheet real quick. There we go. So our next one goes to Dave, who puts in a 10 and says, "Hey guys, I'm glad to catch you live again. It's been a while since my first pilgrimage. I don't miss replays daily though. Have you ever seen a C-130 take off or land using JATO bottles?"
We have seen one take off or land using the JATO bottles. I believe those were actually banned about a decade and a half ago because of environmental concerns, because they were like really toxic actually. So, but still, I have seen it, and it is really cool to see. It makes their takeoffs so short, like it's like a matter of like 800 feet, and they're already airborne. So really cool, really neat little launching system. And I got to thank you so much for the support and making the pilgrimage again. Everyone always makes a pilgrimage to the stream. It's almost like something that Lee Spring Army members have to go through, whether they be soldats or old guards. And remember, old guard was changed. Now, if you're here before if you're here before the Great Schism and Moscow Mike, you are an old guard. So that actually includes a large majority of y'all. Y'all are now old guards. But moving on from that, I think that is something pretty interesting to note. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And the next one goes to John Webster, who puts in a 10 and says, "Do you think the Russian robo-soldier is made of laundry machines and fueled by vodka? It looks like it should be flushed down a stolen Ukrainian toilet." Lols.
Why did you say Ukrainian toilet so weird, man? You're like, it should be flushed down a Ukrainian toilet. It's like you almost turned into James May for some reason. You're like cheese or something.
I was actually thinking about that Japanese episode of James May looking at the toilet seats in Japan on that Japanese show.
Didn't he end up liking bidets?
What's that again?
You know, like that little thing that sticks out from the toilet. You know, like cleans you a little bit with a spray of water. You know.
I don't know.
Like, if I remember that correctly, if I remember the thing correctly, he was like, "Oh, these things are actually quite nice." You know, I think he said something like that at some point on the trip. And then he also said about the cat cafes, "I don't know, that's kind of pervy."
Yeah, I remember that
James,
part.
Not James, come on in. It's all right. No, man, I think that's kind of pervy. I wouldn't go in there. And honestly, he was right. He was right, like 100% on that. But anyways, can you reread the line?
Yes. Let me type this real quick. There we go. The line said, "Do you think the Russian robo-soldier is made of laundry machines and fueled by vodka? It looks like it should be flushed down a stolen Ukrainian toilet."
It does look like it should be flushed down a stolen Ukrainian toilet, and that thing's made out of the jankest crap that Russia can find because that's all they got left. So it probably is made out of washing machines in all honesty. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
All right. And the next one goes to Trister1, who puts in a 10 and says, "If I don't know what the Great Schism is, does that make me like some kind of conscript or something?"
Did you just read schism as schism?
Yes. I'm trying to like copy a question over here.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. But I don't think that makes you... He said, "Does that make me like a conscript?" Yes, bleed. Here's your AK, bleed. Go to Frontline, bleed. I'm just kidding with you, Trister. The Great Schism, if you do not remember this, then you would be a soldat still, Trister, sadly. But the Great Schism was when my old moderators that I originally started off with within the first 4 days of the channel blowing up. They all tried to force me to do things they wanted to do, although they weren't running the show and they were just showing up to pretty much tell me how to run it. Otherwise, they were going to try and destroy the channel. And so on the night that Moscow Mike came on, they did it. Well, they attempted to try and destroy the channel. They all ended up getting banned, and then I went on to get 111,000 subscribers, and one of them sitting out there with 300 subscribers, and he's wimping out because we still keep an eye on him. Anyways, thank you so much for the support, Trester1. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And also, I think that does make you a Soledar. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a 10...
Wait, before you read that one, Astral said, the great Shazam.
Shazam!
Shazam! But with that, let's get on to the next one now. You hear me?
You heard me.
You heard me.
All right. So, Trister once said, your first political takedown.
yeah, that was. And they were, to add on to that a little bit before we get to the next one, I know Matthew's like, dang, he said that like 3 times now. The things that they would do behind the scenes is like, I would say something, like, oh, the Russians are pretty crass people for committing the war crimes. They say, dude, what you said was uncalled for, and you need to get on stream and apologize for it. Like, they would want to make me apologize for stuff I'm saying on my own show that I'm spending like 8 to 10 hours a day to run. It's like, no, dude. I was like, if you want to sit there and apologize to someone for a comment that you didn't even make, you can go make your own channel and make your own comments. I'm not doing that.
I warned you about those people for a long time. I was even behind the scenes, like going undercover, like trying to catch them saying things, trying to infiltrate the ranks, because they'd created like a whole like subculture in there.
Yeah, they were creating a whole subculture, trying to get people allied to them that were loyal to them, so that way they could turn on me and have a decent amount of the community behind them. It didn't work out, though. I ended up just banning them, and it seems as though most people cannot even remember a single name of who these people even were. So it's like, it actually went not that bad. It actually went incredibly well, especially considering what they were intending on doing and what they completely failed on. It was almost like how the Russians failed to take over Ukraine in a week. They failed to do anything they set out to do when that schism occurred. So
we had a whole plan in place, though. Like that night that happened, we were ready, and we were just like had to take a pause from the stream to go carry out the operation. Basically,
they didn't know, but we had seen this happening for about a week and a half. Like, we were like, we know it's happening. So for that week and a half, we had come up with a plan where we could just get off the stream and have them banned off of everything within a couple of minutes. So that was hilarious, because as soon as it began, boom, they were gone. It's like within like 3 minutes flat, they were gone. So I found that to be quite nice, I'd have to say. And also, there was a whole bunch of other reasons that they were, making up things, but we won't go into all of them. But with that, we are on to the next one. And once again, I hope that addresses that fairly well.
Excuse me. Our next... It's awkward pause and then a loud cough. But anyways, our next one goes to Dave, who puts in a 10. He says, how many people have a favorite vid of any of your streams? Mine is on day 118, timestamp 133. Maybe a good poll.
That's an interesting idea. Sadly, I don't think a poll could even cover all of the single moments and days that we've ever had, because there are 360 days of streams now, 3.5 hours long each. And that would be so much to put in a poll. But I don't really have a specific day, because I've done so many of these videos and I've seen so many great ones. It's really hard to think of one. I guess if I had to make a fallback option, my favorite fallback option would be the time that the Russians were running through literal hell. Everything was on fire and everything was blowing up around them because that ammunition dump had exploded like 2 blocks over. And there was just stuff exploding everywhere and everything was on fire and they were trying to run through it. That would probably be the funniest video I ever saw, and probably what many of y'all saw as well. Here we go. Philip Fix said the run through hell. Everyone thought that was the funniest video ever, and it was, honestly. It was great. So with that, I hope that addresses that question fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
Indeed. And up next, real quick, I saw Eric L. say, Matt, don't join the CIA. Damn, it's too late, Eric. But no, just joking. That's a joke. And also Philip said, I swear there was someone before you doing the questions. And there was, and he was one of the fellows that turned on us.
Yeah, he was, which was kind of funny. You know, and what happened? What was interesting about it is this was the one thing that this guy would push me on, and this is where one of the big problems came in, is that all of them were Discord moderators, and they would show up, like all of them collectively, maybe 30 minutes a day each, and they would just do that, and then they wanted to take the support that I was getting, you know, for doing this 10 hours a day as a full-time job, and they wanted to have it all equally split amongst them and myself. And this guy was the one spearheading that. And I was like, you know, I told him, since he was the co-host, I was like, you know, I'd be willing to pay you, but, you know, Discord mods never get paid anywhere, because I've been to Discord mods several times before. I never got put on a payroll. I was like, that just doesn't happen. And so he was like, well, I would really, I'd just like if you did all of us, and he wouldn't accept, you know, being paid on his own. So then that was a whole deal. And also some of you are gonna be like, well, Matt, doesn't Matt get paid? Yes, he gets paid, obviously, because he's actually working here like I am and doing this. But he was wanting everyone to get paid like the same share, so everyone get paid 11%, including me, although almost everyone else did nothing. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense at all, especially for Discord mods to be paid, because no Discord mods ever get paid. That's like a volunteer position. But anyways, that was another thing, and that guy was one of the main guys who also popped off the schism with everyone else. And funnily enough, nobody remembers his name. I honestly forgot his name too. So with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and also happy birthday to you, Paula McDonald. I see a lot of people saying that,
hey,
so
happy
it must
birthday.
be true. Happy birthday to you, and I hope you have a good one. Have cake. And also, I was told by Susie Halsey to say, mention that competition ends in a few minutes, please.
Yes, the flag competition ends in 3 minutes. If you have not put in a flag, put one in now, because the competition will end in 3 minutes, and then we'll go and pick the best flag out of all of those at the end of the competition, which is in 3 minutes. So make sure to throw one in. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. And thank you once again for reminding me about that, Susie. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh, damn, it's not Paula's birthday. She said, nope, next Friday. So everybody's faking.
Everyone's just a week early.
Yes, it's birthday every day. But anyways, up next, we have a $10 super chat from Joseph M. Sika once again, who says that last poll was tough. No one knows what might happen. I did know, however, Russia was going to attack Ukraine. Didn't we learn that when Stalin was obvious to the Germans massing on their border? And Joseph, I gotta say, I'm with you. I knew something was going to happen, because there's no way you build up that many troops on a border unless you're going to start a war. And I was saying about 2 weeks before that war broke out in Ukraine that something was going to happen. And I was told by a lot of people, nah, that's just fear-mongering. But it turned out to be true. So you called it right as well.
And I would also have to agree with you as well, Joseph. It didn't... It seemed like something was going to happen. Actually, I was wrong at the beginning of this war. That was one of the big things I was wrong on. I never expected this war to happen, because on a logical standpoint, it made no sense for the Russians. It was going to be economic suicide, and it was also going to be military suicide for them as well. And that's why I thought the war wasn't going to happen, because it made no sense from the Russian perspective, because it was mostly going to be a losing war. And 12 months later, here we are. They did the thing I didn't think they would do, and they're paying the price in the exact way and the exact reasons why I thought they wouldn't go into the war. Their economy has been destroyed, and their military is constantly getting destroyed daily. So that's something that I find kind of funny, is that Matthew thought they were going to go into the war. I didn't, because I knew what was going to happen to him. I was like, on a logical standpoint, that would not be worth fighting the war, and then they did it anyways. But to be honest, it completely caught me off guard when it started, because I was like, they have done the stupidest decision they could have, and then after that, we saw nothing but stupid decisions come out of them, even on a, like, infantry, like, rifleman level basis. So with that, I hope that does address that the comment fairly well, and I thank you so much once again, Joseph, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, a big shout out to Tangen, who puts in a 10, formerly known as Tangen Bragiri. I have to say that for some reason, but no comment, but thank you very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much, Tangen, for the support. No comment, but of course, we thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, and without you, we wouldn't be able to keep these lights on. They're nice lights, by the way. They're LEDs, actually. They are very efficient, energy efficient, and bright.
Are you talking about the studio lights?
I think so. Yeah, it's
so or the overhead lights.
Well, I mean, you know, anyways, with that, thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
And up next, you're acting like it's an OPSEC thing. Like, people know we have lights in our room. But
I'm scared, Matthew. They don't need to know we have 2 of them. I'm scared. But with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from KG, who says, I'm not sure why there is such fervor for sending F-16s. They are great, but what Ukraine really needs is missile trucks, like Super Hornets, that can engage many targets at once.
Missile trucks. Missile truck. Блиет. Topol. It's a topol, блиет. Big topol. Topol, блиет. You see this, Matthew? It's topol, блиет.
I don't know how you work on a truck like that, changing a tire.
Oh, good. Here, let me take the tire off. You take one tire off on the front, holding just leans to the left and crushes you.
Like you'll probably need like a forklift, a jumbo-sized forklift, a couple of folks. Like, who knows? I'd like to see that.
Man, I don't even know how the suspension works on this thing. Like, honestly, this is stupid. I don't even get the point of this. Because, you know, like, the whole point of these things being mobile is that no one really knows where they are in the country. But does it even matter? Because usually you have, like, 10 minutes to launch off nuclear weapons. Does it matter if you know where this one specific nuclear missile is? Because there's thousands of others that are just sitting there stationary, and you'll be able to shoot those off before those silos get hit, for the most part. So I don't get the point of making one mobile. But anyways... I do thank you for the support, and you were right. F-18s are missile trucks. They're big missile-y trucks, and I think that they should be sent to Ukraine because the Swiss have them, and if they're good enough for the Swiss, they're good enough for Ukraine. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Joseph M. Siegel once again. He says, imagine this. Imagine if Hitler went into Russia and took over their industrial factories. He could have built up his force, and he probably actually would take over the world with Japan. Crazy, right?
That is a good point. That is a good point, Joseph. However, the Russians blew up everything and also moved most of it to the Urals while Hitler was moving east into Russia. And so there wasn't really a lot of an industrial base for them to work off of because they either moved into the Urals or the Russians had deliberately destroyed what couldn't be brought to the Urals. So sadly, that wasn't really an option for them. But still, I thank you for the support. And I thank you for bringing that up because if that was the case, he may have been able to. And with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat once more from Trister1, who says, Justin Bronk at Russi makes a good argument on the Gripen than F-18 before any other fighter due to ruggedness, and that air defense and munitions are more important anyway. And what are your thoughts?
And I would agree, the F-18 is more rugged than the F-16 and could certainly land on Ukrainian runways because its landing gear are rated for incredibly high stresses, way more than the F-16. Have you ever seen a comparison of an F-18 and an F-16 landing, Matthew?
No, I haven't actually.
F-18 versus F-16 landing. Let me see if I can find this. So here's the Air Force versus the Navy landing. This will get the point across. Here we go. So there's the F-16 landing. Look how it glides down like butter. Look at that. It's smooth because, you know, the landing gear can't tolerate much. And here comes the Navy landing an F-18 here in a second.
Oh,
like slamming that thing down.
Geez.
The F-18 can really handle those high-stress landings on the landing gear because they're made to land on carriers, and so you have to make the rigors that they go through to be extreme. So in that regard, the F-18 will probably be better for the Ukrainians because it could actually survive on Ukraine's runways, like that one right there. You know, and if it can land like that, it can land on anything. So with that, I would agree with you, Tristan. I think the F-18 would probably be better than the F-16, but everyone always praises the F-16 due to its ability to carry any kind of munition, but then again, the F-18 can kind of do that as well. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and I think I'm actually going to have to change my comments from here forward, thanks to Trister. I'm no longer going to be lobbying for the F-16s to be sent to Ukraine. I'm going to lobby for the F-18s to be sent. So with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
You know what the real difference between the Air Force and the Navy landing is?
What?
I'm debating whether or not I should say it.
Don't say it.
I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass on it.
Yeah, you're gonna set us up for a joke and then back out. All right, with that, we're on to the next one.
It sounded good in my mind, but when I actually started saying it, I was like, well, that I don't know. I'll pass. But anyways, up next, we have a $10 super chat from Psyops, who says, you might be from Alabama when you propose with spray paint on an overpass. You might be from Alabama when you get in a fight with your sister. But you made a promise to your wife not to go to bed angry.
Oh, no. Well, I thank you for the support, Sibes. You're not wrong. Those are Alabama things, and I would be completely amiss to say they're not. So with that, thank you so much once again for support. We might be from Alabama when we do those things. We might be from Alabama when we sit there and we constantly go against the quote-unquote brightest minds in the United States and end up usually being right. Like when we said the Abrams will eventually make it to Ukraine, and then they did, and everyone laughed and said it wouldn't. And also when we said other things, like Bakhmut would hold. Then people said, you're silly, it won't, and then it has. And, other things, like Ukraine will survive beyond a week, and then people laughed, and they said, no, it won't, it will only survive a week. And then it's now 12 months later. And, the other time, I'm not even going to go through all of them, but we are Alabama boys, and we do Alabama things. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. But with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
And we do have a bot. The bot is Ebsy, and says, Russia. Love face, heart 100, thumbs up. So I'm firing back at the bot. I said Ukraine, heart face, heart 100, thumbs up. So look at that. Y'all bully the bot. It's FC Gutsman. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, look, it's saying it again. Yeah. Go ahead and bully that one. We can have some fun with this one.
But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Chip Kerwan, who puts in a 10 and says, to get in shape for 1L, I worked oil rig 100 miles out in Gulf of Mexico. I was only yank. Some called me Boston. Let me forward this over to you.
Got you, boss. Get you. I already see why you stopped. I already see. Well, I thank you so much for the support, sharing that with us. Sadly, we can't read the next part off because we keep it Disney on this channel. And that's not quite Disney. It's I would say it's definitely a cream of the crop super chat, if you get my drift. But sadly, we can't read that off. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that comment fairly well, and pretty cool to hear that you worked on an oil rig. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Christina Law once again, who puts in a 10 and says, okay, no more rubber baby buggy bumpers. Well, that got me choked up. How about the she sells seashells by the seashore? Lol.
She sells seashells by the seashore?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, well, I thank you so much once again for the support. And we've been activated again. I must open up an FTX fund. I must open up a CryptoPunks fund. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one. And also, Matthew finally got that bot gone and forgotten immediately.
That bot wasn't any fun. It just kept saying the same thing over and over.
It just kept on. Bots are usually fun, but that one, it wasn't. So that's, we are on to the next one, yeah? And I thank you so much once again for the support, yeah? And the tongue twisters, yeah? Because the tongue twisters are funny, yeah? And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have an $8 super chat from Kot, who says, why not send the Ginsu knife missile to controlled descent, demolish those China balloons? 2018, China tested dropping hypersonic glide vehicles, same balloon.
Good question. Reason why is because those go down, and the balloon is so high that it's up. So sadly, a bomb going down does not equate to going up, sadly. So, unfortunately, that's why we didn't use Ginsu bomb, but it's still pretty cool idea. And so with it, I think honestly, what they should have done is they should have filled the 20mm Vulcan gun with buckshot and seen how that done, because buckshot fixes everything, bleed. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And also, Susie, the name on that bot was FC Gutsman. And if they join the Discord, please Stugna them immediately. Because they mean trouble. They're a whole bunch of trouble. We don't want them here. But up next, we have a $7 super chat from Danny Coco, who says, if D-Day happened today, would it succeed? Concentrate answer on secrecy and satellite reconnaissance on both sides. Supplementary question, if Germans didn't have the MG42, would the results have differed?
If the Germans did not have the MG42, the results would have not differed because they would have had MG34. I mean, asshole. I mean, asshole for saying that because, you know, he said if they didn't have the MG42, it would have turned out differently. And this is the MG42, and it wouldn't have because they would have had the MG34, which is literally just the earlier iteration of the MG42. This is also what the blaster would be for the stormtroopers in Star Wars because they were cheap and they just used World War II guns for the most part and made them look sci-fi. But anyways, moving on from that, it would have had the MG34, so it wouldn't have been that different. And also, in the modern day, Normandy is possible. It's just that it's going to be a lot more difficult to pull off because technology has gotten so advanced. You can't really just take a massive fleet and then sail it on down into one area. You would have to spread it out even over a further area than it was for the D-Day landings, which will spread all the way from Plymouth to, I believe, like Dover, and they all converged in one lane and then went down towards Normandy. But I think it's still possible because the Marines and the Navy and also the Army still conduct war games where they conduct amphibious landings. So I have a feeling that due to them still keeping that in the doctrine, it's possible. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $7 super chat from The Angry Toaster, who says, if Ukraine attacked Russian military assets in other parts of the world, would it force Russia to send more units away from the front, or would it escalate the conflict? Would they be legitimate targets?
They probably would be legitimate targets, and it probably would force more Russian manpower to be sent elsewhere to protect these areas. It wouldn't escalate the war, though, because, you know, a war is a war, so if they strike something somewhere else, it's not really like you can go, that's uncalled for because you're at war, you know, so it's just kind of what comes with it. So I think that they could do that and draw more manpower away from the front without escalating the conflict. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes. He says, I saw your, let's see, something total from last year. Happy to report you raised more for Ukraine. Still, goodness help your tax bill. Slava LSA enforcers and Ukraine.
And thank you for the support. If you're talking about the fundraisers, that doesn't actually get contributed to our taxes at all because we don't get any of that. We don't get a cent of it. YouTube manages all that. So we won't have to worry about that in Texas, bleed. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it was certainly quite a high number just by the end of last year. I think it was like close to 700,000 raised in support of Ukraine, and that is definitely something. Not a small amount, I'd say. And so that, thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Rad Doctor, who puts in a 5 and says, price of Robo-Soldier, 2 million rubles. The look of disappointment on Putin's face is priceless.
It's 2 million rubles? I gotta say,
it is. That's crazy. I gotta say, though, the look on Putin's face, I hope he has that same look when his country loses this war, because that will be very satisfying.
Also, Matthew, looks like we have a bot. Let me get it real quick. There we go. If you don't like channel, don't watch channel. Simple as. Not trying to keep you here. But anyways, reread the line real quick.
Price of Robo-Soldier, 2 million rubles. The look of disappointment on Putin's face, priceless. 2 million rubles, though, what is that, like $100,000?
Let's find out. 2 million. $27,000, actually. So, not that bad, but...
That's a lot of price, but, you know, you're just getting a parts bin, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's not really anything good. Also, look at the ruble. That thing's going back down again. Dang, that little hyperinflation thing they did there, well, the hyper deflation they did for a second didn't really help them out much for long. But still, moving on from that, I would say that's a little overpriced for what's literally a fake mannequin sitting on top of an ATV going 4 miles an hour. But hey, that's the Russian military industry. In America, we would still get ripped off at an even higher price, but we'd actually get something worth it. So with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. And also, let's see. Our next one is a super chat from StrayCat241, who puts in a 5 and says, in the video where you can see Putin looking out of the window, that's a robot. You can see the look of defeat in his eyes. He looked kind of sad.
He did look sad. He looked like devastated, like at what the Russians were able to make. I don't know why he's surprised though, because one time he tried to open up the door on the Lada and it literally broke off in his hand. So I don't know why he's surprised at this stuff anymore, but it still blows him away. So with that, I thank you so much once again for your support and helping this channel to keep on running, and I hope we addressed that fairly well. By the way, just to address one of the bots from earlier, we're not millennials, we're actually Gen Z, so please put us in the right category if you're trying.
No, don't put us in that category either. Just forget the generation.
Yeah,
just forget it.
Well, I mean, we are technically, you and me are technically Gen Z. If you're going to try and categorize us for one dumb reason or the other, I don't really get the point of categories like generations. You're either a person that makes sense or not, and obviously you're not making sense. But please put us in the right category if you're going to do that anyways. So with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Bradley Barrows, who puts in a 10 and says the U.S. said that they are increasing production of ammo for 155 millimeter. Do we expect that most of it will be used to restock other nations that may be near depletion? Ukraine will prevail.
I believe that we will be using those 155 millimeters to restock our inventories and also Ukraine's. I don't think many other countries will, well, they'll probably be getting that, but they'll have to fulfill, they'll have to file out export orders for that and pay for them most likely. So that may be why we're increasing production, but it's most likely for domestic reasons and also to make sure our stockpiles are high enough to continue to support Ukraine and also to keep our military in tip-top shape. So with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. And also, now I can see everyone saying their generation. Honestly, I gotta be honest with y'all, I find the whole generation thing to be stupid. I think that's a pointless divide made amongst people. Like, who cares if you're a millennial, a boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z? What does it really matter? As long as people are able to agree on the same topics or disagree on them, I think that's all that really matters. There's not really, in my opinion, a lot of a good reason as to keep this whole generational thing alive and trying to categorize and label people by generation. That may as well be trying to just categorize and label people because you're starting to run out of other kinds of old categories and labels that you used to use but you don't really use anymore. So
I have a feeling that the whole generation thing will be going away soon, because do you notice anything with the name Generation Z?
Oh yeah, I do, but obviously it's not related. I mean, we're not going to start canceling the letter Z in the Latin alphabet because the Russians used it in this war.
I'm just trying to find a reason to get rid of those name categories. I can't stand being called Generation Z.
I honestly can't stand the stupid stuff with like the millennials and the boomers and all that stuff. Like it's like, what they're saying is absolutely stupid because they sit there and say millennials are A, B, and C. They come up with a stereotype for millennials. And then you talk to millennials, and some millennials are not even that stereotype at all. And some boomers are not that stereotype that they get at all. It's like, what's the point of these stereotypes? Everyone's always going, stereotypes are bad in one category, and then they'll go and make generational stereotypes or something like that. It's like, what's the point? That's just dumb. I believe, at the end of the day, in my opinion, people ought to be viewed as Americans, and that's it. There's no such thing as Generation Y or Z. You're a citizen of the United States. All are the same. All live the same lives, and deal with it from there. It's like that's what I think. I just think this division stuff is stupid because it's just trying to find one way or another to make people think they're different from each other when they're really not. Because look at how many different generations we're seeing right here, Matthew. We're seeing generations all the way from ours all the way up to boomers on this channel, and a lot of you, all of y'all largely agree with what we say and disagree on just a few minor things. And I see no generational differences here on this channel, so I find it to be pointless to even bring it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and also, I just realized somebody mentioned it. We did miss addressing a poll earlier. I don't know how it happened, but it happened for one of the very few times it actually has happened. The question on this poll was, the Eurasia Group CEO says Ukraine can lose and Russia will still lose anyway. What are your thoughts? 36% said true, Russia will be a pariah. 27% said that's bogus, Russia will inevitably attack Poland. 23% said unsure, and 13% said maybe somewhat. Now, a disclaimer, the Eurasia Group is some kind of think tank, so take it with a grain of salt. And I completely disagree with that assessment. Now, I think that's kind of silly, so I'm going to go with the 27% option. But Enforcer, what say you?
And what did they say again?
They said that Ukraine can lose and Russia will still lose anyway, and their rationale behind it was Russia will be such a pariah that their economy is basically non-existent.
That's kind of a dumb way of looking at it.
Yeah.
If they take over Ukraine, they win. That's the whole objective of the war. It doesn't matter how weak they are at that point. They technically won the war, although it be a Pyrrhic victory. It's still a victory. So I wouldn't agree with that. We got to ensure that Ukraine survives this war and comes out of it with all the territory they originally had before 2014. That would be considered winning the war on our end, and that's just a stupid way of trying to say, we could actually lose, but we'd still win. That's like that stupid crap where you lose the football game and your coach comes up and says, well, we still won because we went out there. It's like, you were supposed to go out there. You lost, though. Anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And the next super chat we have is from Mycroft, who puts in a 5 and says, I'd buy that for $1, $5. Damn inflation. I can't post for $1. I'm filing a complaint with the Russian division of the OCP.
And thank you for the support. And I buy that for $1. That's from RoboCop, by the way, Matthew. Matthew's never seen RoboCop, but it's a good movie. Anyways, I do thank you so much for the support. And also helping this channel to keep on running. And I would buy that for $1, but sadly, inflation has made $1 worth a whole lot less. In between when RoboCop came out to now. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Landlubber, who says, no more, let's see here. I think this one might be okay, but let me send it to review. And we now have a review. Welcome to the weekly food review.
Running on empty. No more Viagra for orcs. Birth rate drops even more? Question mark. Yeah, I think it does. And it certainly will, because there's not a lot of guys left to use it. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Trister1, who puts in a 5 and says, why pay a moderator?
And I thank you for the support, Trister. And I would... that sounds kind of like a little dismissive, so I wouldn't say it like that, but considering my experience with being a Discord moderator on multiple different servers and never getting paid, it wouldn't make any sense to start paying Discord moderators now, like on my channel or any channel, because it's a volunteer position, especially when those mods in the Schism all stepped up and volunteered and said, hey man, if you need help moderating the server, I'm here for you, and then they act like they're like indentured servants and they demand payment later on for everything they've done. It's like, but you volunteered, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. That would be like me becoming a volunteer. Well, actually volunteer firefighters get paid, because that's a whole different thing with volunteer firefighters. That would be like me volunteering to pick up litter to just do a civil service, and then sit there at the end of it and go to the city hall and start cussing people out and going, I demand to know why I haven't been paid. It's like, well, you volunteered. It's like there was no agreement to be paid. You wanted to do it because you wanted to do it. And I honestly found that to be really low, because I've never done that before whenever I was a mod, and I don't know why in the world they all acted like that, because that didn't make any sense at all. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support, Trister. I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat again from Trister1, who says, Enforcer Matt, please say quesadilla. There you go, Trister. I hope that was satisfying enough. But thank you very much for the support once again. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob, as always, and thank you very much, Dupper, for the consistent support. And we also have a 2 from StrayCats241, who says, Robot face isn't even scary. He's smiling.
Yeah. He's got the derp face going. Like, it's not even scary. He's just going to roll up, smile at you, and you're going to blow him away because he's driving at 4 miles an hour. But still, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And we're on to the next one. And how many do we have left, Matthew?
2.
All right. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Dubsy Dapster once again, who puts in another 2, which is crazy. That's 2 2s in one night. And they say to the LSA UFO Fund.
And thank you so much for the support.
What would we be funding in that fund? Like, what are we going to do with it?
This is central control. This is central control.
That video was like the cringiest video I've ever seen in my life.
I hate videos like, I hate videos where people like kid themselves into thinking they're like special or something, like I can tell.
I wish I could take that out of my mind, actually. Like, I hate to think about it.
You and me both, but it's stuck there now. It's stuck there for both of us. But still, I thank you for the support to the UFO fund, and I don't know what we would really be funding with the UFO fund. But still, I thank you for it nonetheless. That's the first donation the first super chat we've ever had. Gotta make sure we get the donation and super chat word is right, because this isn't a fundraiser. This is a super chat, so it's supporting us. But still, thank you for supporting our UFO fund. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Joseph M. Sika once again. He says, ABC, actually bad children. Kiki.
Thank you for the support. Kiki.
Kiki, or something like that.
Thank you for the support, Joseph, and ABC 1 2 3. ABC 1 2 3. Remember that elementary school teacher we had that was a little too obsessed with that song, and every time we do PE, she would play that song like a stereo. I can't get over that, man. It's been 14, 15 years. I still can't get over it, and I was like 8. So anyways, with that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and it's time for us to get on into the live chats. Sadly, once again, we're fairly low on time tonight, but we will make sure to continue to answer live chats until 12:33 local time, which you can see at the bottom right of the screen when you're watching on stream, or 1:33 a.m. Eastern time. And so with that, we are on to the live chats.
All right, and real quick, before we address our Morse code, YoST said, will the flag competition nominees and competitors be shown before announcing the winner?
Shown before announcing the winner. All of them are shown right now on the competitions page of the Discord chat, and on the Discord server, if that's what you're asking about. The first time the winner of the flag competition will be shown will actually be during the countdown on February 24th. So I hope that addresses that question fairly well. I hope that also puts a little bit of hype in there for everyone who made a flag, because your flag will actually be shown in an animation, like a flag floating animation, during the countdown on February 24th. We're also going to be completely revamping our normal countdown. We're going to have a new song in it. There's probably going to be just one song that's about 6 minutes long. And also it'll be completely different animation than y'all have ever seen. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. And let's get on into that Morse.
All right, so tonight the Morse was... Oh, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just dropped my watch.
Oh, dear. Missed. But anyways, the Morse code decoders tonight were JP's RC's, Cfay, Rumpelstiltskin, Cliff Simonson, and Mark Hodges. We had the entire gang tonight, the Morse code gang. They said, make sure to be here on February 24th.
And, yeah, the money starts flowing out, but you got it correct. Make sure to show up on the 24th. It's going to be bussin'. And thank y'all for deciphering the Morse code message again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And yes, be sure to be here on February 24th. It's going to be a big, big day. Previewing a whole new format and everything. And also a giveaway of a really cool Ukrainian plane. Also, plenty of guests and plenty of fun. Be sure to be there February 24th.
And also, you don't have to even put in a donation to win the prize. All you have to do is say something in the live chat, and you're already in the raffle. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Cody Griffith, who says, Enforcer, what's the timetable for Sweden and Finland to become NATO members?
Sadly, we don't know, because Turkey is doing Turkey things, and it could be never for what we know, or it could be the next month. We're not entirely sure right now. So with that, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from Marichka, who says, which city will host the Yalta conference of this war? Will it be Yalta? And which world leaders will be invited?
Sadly, I wouldn't know what city would host. It could be any city in the world, really. And I don't know what world leaders would be invited. I know the United States would certainly be invited, most likely along with the United Kingdom, but I don't know who else would be there. So with that, I hope that addresses the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. Excuse me. The next one goes to Dizizl, who says, are there any new indications of the alleged year anniversary offensive Russia is planning?
There's not really a lot of information on it. I saw Sky News, and y'all know how credible Sky News is, saying that it'll happen in 7 days, but they're the only people talking about it now, so I would highly doubt it's happening. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, at least off of what we're seeing. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to AD, who says, if Belarus has its army invade with a Russian offensive from Belarus, what do you guys think will be the response from the West?
I think the response from the West would be to ramp up support for Ukraine, but we wouldn't get directly involved because that creates a World War situation. We don't want that. But we'll probably just ramp up support. That would be the likely option. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sitting and Thinking, who says, is it known if Wagner is pulling troops out of Syria and their African locations?
We haven't heard about the Wagner unit pulling their troops out of any locations. It appears they're still in Africa and Syria, although they have a reduced presence in Syria even before the war began because they got slaughtered by the Americans pretty badly. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to a Frequency Harmonic, who says, Enforcer, do you think it was an operational mistake for Ukraine to put up a stubborn defense at Bakhmut when it sucked up so much precious resources like the 155mm and other ammo?
I don't think it was bad for them because in Bakhmut they've been able to bleed the Russians dry of manpower and equipment, and if they're able to attain that kind of, I guess you could say, losses from the Russians, that's a fairly good going battle. Also, I hope I answered that question fairly well. And Papa said, is he sarcastic about Sky News? No, I'm not, because a lot of their articles and community posts that they make on YouTube are straight up misinformation, and we actually went over that a couple of days ago on stream and showed some of them, and they're just bizarre. Like, you can ask Matthew, he was of course here, they were wildly off key, like they're not even close to being true. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well, and we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Robert Durham, who says, did you know that North Korea is in possession of a commissioned U.S. warship and its colors?
Yes, it's a little ship. It's kind of a misnomer. Saying that a little bit, it's in Pyongyang. I can find it. It's a little like a little itty bitty ship. I gotta find it around here. Do you know the name of the ship, Matthew? It's the one that they took over with literally like a PPSH.
I don't remember, to be totally honest.
Let's see, Pyongyang Bell. It's got to be around here. Look at all that trash. Is that trash?
Huh. Probably so, or yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I can't find it. Ah! Wait, hang on. Battle of Wagner and U.S. forces. Also, I had to find this for a second because the Battle of Kashan, U.S. forces fight the Wagner group, U.S. won. Because some people said, what, that never happened? It did. So, also to get to this next thing that we're trying to pull up here. Let me think. Refresh me again, Matthew. What? Oh, yeah, they captured U.S. ship by North Korea. The USS Pueblo. So this is the ship they captured, and they make a big deal about it. It was like a geological survey ship that they fired on and then boarded, and they literally took it with like 2 guys with submachine guns. So, you know, and no one on the ship was even armed. So, you know, it's not really like it was even that big of an accomplishment. But yes, they did capture this with the colors and all, and then the crew was eventually transferred back to the United States a decent while in the future. I believe it was like a year later. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure running tonight's news. And if you all enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, and also make sure to comment as well, because that all helps the Leaf Spring Army to grow and the Leaf Spring Army culture to become even stronger. And so with that, thank you all once again for watching. I will see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. Good night, take care, good luck, and Slava Ukraini!
Jaga Jaga Igor!
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу.